Good morning and welcome to the Municipality of South Dundas Committee of the Whole meeting for Friday, May the 8th, 2026. I'd like to call the meeting to order. I have a motion. Let it resolve that the May 8th Committee of the Whole meeting be opened at 8:36 a.m. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. Confirmation of agenda. Any errors, omissions, amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, I have a motion. Let it be resolved that the Council of Municipality approve the agenda as presented. Moved by Councillor Smith, seconded by Councillor Vino. All in favor? Carried. And item 3, disclosure of pecuniary interest, general nature thereof. Seeing none today, we can move right to discussion items. First up is fleet and equipment. Summary of current trends. We'll start off with CEO DeHaan.
Yeah, thank you and good morning, Council. First, I guess I want to thank all the staff that are here this morning to speak on behalf of this presentation and report that we're going through this morning. So the idea for Council is just to really go through what we have in inventory, kind of purpose, some of the things we're noticing, and then from there, I guess solicit some discussion as Council deems appropriate. I know that there's lots of different opportunities that are in front of us as a municipality, and I guess more than anything, some pretty significant challenges from a financial and equipment replacement perspective. So with that, we're going to be going through a slideshow which summarizes essentially the report that Council has in front of them. If I can get the next slide, please. So very high level, what we have in terms of a fleet inventory is 60 plus units. What we plan to do to set off kind of how this discussion starts is actually go through our inventory briefly and talk about the pieces of equipment we have, some of the challenges we have with those pieces of equipment, and life and maybe some observations we've had with them. So with that, I think I'm flipping it over to our Director of Transportation, Jeff, to start us off talking about the equipment inventory and transportation.
All right, thank you, Mayor and Council. So I guess we're just going to go through the list here of each picture, kind of offer a quick little synopsis of where we're at, what it is, what it does, and what issues we are having with it. I brought our fleet mechanic, Chris Riddle, as well, so he can offer a little bit more insight as well to the machinery. Speaking of this one right off the bat, I'll let Chris jump right in and you can offer your synopsis on SP1.
SP1's currently sitting with a bent valve and it touched the piston, so it needs an engine rebuild, and it has a rotted rad and oil cooler assembly which was priced out for $10,500. The unit currently needs about $35,000 to $40,000 invested in it to make it operational again, and that's where we're sitting with it right now.
Next slide. Okay, so this is one of our holders, used plowed sidewalks in Iroquois. A very good machine, well used, well maintained, minor issues with that, so nothing to foresee in the near future. Likewise, this is SP3. This is parked in Morrisburg shop, or sorry, vice versa. This is the one that plows in Iroquois. SP2 plows in Morrisburg. Again, very reliable machine. Had a couple of electrical issues with this one at the beginning, but I think we've got them all rectified, and the plow's been running good since. Unit 62, tandem plow truck. This is our spare that we utilize. This has a Cummins engine, so a reliable engine, available when we need it as our frontline plows break down. Unit 68, this is our frontline plow, our oldest of our frontline plows, used in the country run. This has a Cummins engine as well. So once we talk later down the line about replacements and whatnot, this unit will be the spare that I reference as we start talking about new vehicles coming in. 75, another frontline tandem truck. This has a Max Force engine in it. We have seen higher than usual costs when it comes to repairs with the after treatment system and whatnot. So just keeping you in line. This would still be a frontline plow truck. Unit 76 single axle. This has a Max Force engine in it. There is quite a few issues with this truck. This will be the next truck to be replaced when we replace our single axles through our new chassis, reusing our existing hardware. This will be the first one that gets retrofitted. Unit 78 John Deere backhoe. This one is going to be dispersed. During budget, council approved the purchase of a new backhoe. So the new backhoe has since come in. So this one will be eliminated, but we just wanted to take a picture to show you what the machine was. 79, another single axle, Max Force engine in this one. We have seen issues with this one. Once we come through our replacement cycle, again, this unit will have a new chassis put underneath it, repurposing the hardware, sandblast paint, and put it back in service once we get to its replacement cycle. Unit 86, this is at the this is at the landfill. This truck has been used as a +1 model that I'll introduce later down the line. So it's gone to the landfill. It's a good, reliable truck with still lots of life left in it. So that's where that vehicle is. Unit 87, this was came in yellow from the county tender. Frontline plow truck, no issues with this one so far, other than it's yellow. Unit 88 is a trailer. So early in this, the life of this trailer, it was used to transport our sidewalk machine when we used to plow Williamsburg. The unit used to be housed at the Matilda garage. The operator would do his tractor run, come back, load on the sidewalk machine onto this trailer and take it to Williamsburg, offload it, do the plowing and bring it back. So early in its life, it had a lot of work, being busy every day. Since then, we now keep our sidewalk machines at the Williamsburg Fire Hall. So it gets utilized more by the Water and Recreation Department, moving the trench box around. Unit 89, our tractor. This is a dual purpose unit to plow snow in the wintertime, as well as doing roadside mowing in the summer. It does have loader arms for it, not used very often, but the tractor did come with loader arms with pallet forks as well. So that's the use of this tractor. Unit 90, this was a patrol vehicle, which has now since been given to our fleet mechanic just to keep the kilometers down on it. It still had some life left, so we tried to repurpose it. And so the mechanic uses it as a service vehicle, come to rescue people broken down on the side of the road, or to chase parts for repairs. Unit 93, a rubber tired excavator. Back in the early days of council, when I first came on in 2015, 16, maybe 17, council approved the purchase of this rubber tired excavator instead of purchasing a third backhoe. It has come in very handy for us for culvert repairs, ditching, brushing. It has a brusher on the front of it. Just an all-round jackknife, if you want to call it, of a machine that's very handy and it contributes with water breaks as well with the water department. Unit 94, this was just an everyday commuter vehicle. It has since been turned over to myself, where I do the priority or the maximum driving with this vehicle. In the summertime, the students utilize this vehicle with their weed trimming and trimming around guardrails and whatnot. Unit 95, 1 ton. This vehicle is predominantly pulling our hot box. This vehicle did pull the trailer 88 with our sidewalk machine. So it did get a lot of use in its early stages. Now it's more pulling the hot box. Council during budgets this year in 2026 approved the purchase of a new chassis. So the chassis is on order, and we're going to repurpose the box and put it on the new chassis when it comes in. Unit 96, frontline plow truck. This was purchased in 2019. It does have a Max Force engine in it, but we haven't seen large issues. Maybe it's a newer model of engine. However, it's still there. A good, reliable truck up to this point. Unit 100, the compactor at the landfill. This came in used, was used when purchased. Used for daily packing, always in the roughest of conditions. However, we've since brought in a pressure washer company, so it does get a bath once in a while through the summertime to help keep the debris and stuff from getting tied up around the bearings in the wheels. So that's where that is. 102, the hot box, exactly what it says, used in the wintertime with coal patch, patching potholes. And in the summertime, it makes multiple trips into Ottawa to get real HL2 asphalt for patching holes and small patches within the municipality. 103, this truck was kind of a new initiative that myself and along with Councillor Ward, we introduced a joint use vehicle. So this is shared between the roads department and the landfill. We have roll-off boxes at the landfill, so this truck will go back and empty out the roll-off boxes at the landfill, as well as it can apply material on the roads with the salt spreader that goes on the back of it. It does have a front plow and a wing. A very good purchase when we made that purchase. 111, this was a patrol truck. Now it's just a regular everyday commuter for our staff and the roads department. 113, this is the newest backhoe in 2024. This was purchased to replace the Caterpillar backhoe that we had. There's no issues with this unit. 114, this unit came used as a purchase from the counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. We have since put a set of Packer wheels on that council approved a few months ago. Those Packer wheels are working very well out on the gravel roads. This unit does come with a front plow and a side wing for winter operations. There's been no issues other than minor repairs up to this point with new tires put on. 115, frontline plow truck, Western Star, tandem axle. Not much to say about it. Good, reliable truck. 116, this was a fire tanker that was originally housed in the Williamsburg Fire Hall. When the approval to purchase the new pump tank for Morrisburg came in, this vehicle was deemed a surplus. I asked council's permission if we could keep it in-house and use it for gravel, or watering gravel roads, washer bridge decks, numerous other ideas. And it was approved at that point. So now it's sitting at our yard in Matilda. This is also a viable option for the fire service, that if a tanker happens to break down, they can come and grab this, which they have already, and they could put it in their fire hall and it could still haul water. 118, this is now our patrol truck, used steady through the wintertime. No issues with this vehicle. 119, our roadside mower. These mowers get replaced every 3 years. We did try to keep one mower for the 4th year, and that didn't work out well. So we're now on an every 3-year rotational life cycle. This was purchased through the joint tendering with the counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry. 120, this is our newest vehicle, a triaxle, different type of animal for the municipality. You don't normally see triaxles in a municipal setting. This worked very well for us this year plowing snow, as it was on the furthest route away from the garage. So when he got loaded, we didn't see him again until he came back at the end of the day. So it worked out very well. Now we'll be able to utilize it for ditching and culvert replacements, as well as hauling topsoil for recreation or water breaks. So a good unit. 125, this is our newest backhoe that we just received to replace Unit 78, a JCB. New to us. It is new, but it's it was a 2025 model, but we received it in 2026. So We have yet to do any work with it as of yet. Unit 69, now we're into recreation, so I'll let Mr. Jansen.
Maybe we could take questions or comments through each section. This way we don't have to go back, because I have a series of comments and questions. More paraphrasing, Director Hyman, just to be clear from my almost 4 years sitting at this table. Sidewalk machines. So we have 3 sidewalk machines and we have 3 sidewalk routes: Williamsburg, Iroquois, Morrisburg. Is that correct?
That is correct, Mayor.
Very good.
Yes.
We have 9 snowplow routes, and we have 10 snow plow trucks.
That is correct.
That is correct. Okay. Explain to me, you started down that path. Explain to me a little bit more about the difference between the single axle snowplow trucks and then the tandem or triaxles. So you started on how that triaxle is a benefit, but how we need each one in different places, or what the use is, and explain what the difference is in the trucks.
So the single axles are a smaller, a more maneuverable type of vehicle with the shorter wheelbase. When I started here in 2015, though, we did have 3 at that point, 3 single axles. 2 were in Morrisburg, 1 was in the village of Iroquois. We had a mechanical breakdown on 1 unit, and we brought the roll-off to Iroquois. Streets are a little bit wider and we can manage easier with that truck in Iroquois. Then they originally had a one-way plow on them. We had since put reversibles, so they're a little bit more maneuverable. We could put snow where we actually want it to go in cul-de-sacs when they start fooling around with those type of activities in the villages of Morrisburg and Iroquois. The tandem trucks, they're strictly, as it says, it's got a one-way plow with a wing on it, and they're in our rural setting. They're out in our country, so there's 5 of those, and 1 triaxle. That do the rural plowing in the countries, and that's kind of the way it is. And the spare truck is the spare in case we have a mechanical breakdown and we need to have another truck.
Right. So just to paraphrase, single axles in town, we got the tandems for rural, and then that triaxle, which we bought, I think, in 2023, right? Which we took that leap, right? Which was probably a good thing. Seeing what the CPI is and inflation has been, it was probably best we bought that year one than if we would have done that now. Very good. Now, Jeff, is the roads department the first, if water has a breakdown and needs a backhoe, and are you the first call they make? Do you respond unless you're preoccupied? Is that the current strategy?
So through you, Mayor Brad, that's correct. So working with myself and manager Villeneuve, if a water break does come in or happens, Dennis is right on the phone with myself. Jeff, can you supply some backhoe and a dump truck? At that point, that's where I either say, Dennis, all my guys are out plowing, or all my guys are busy. Let's go to our recurring services, where we have a list of hired equipment that's already priced out. Go and make the phone calls to find out. Other than that, we try to 100% do the breaks ourselves in-house.
Very good. Lastly, sorry, go ahead,
Well, I just
Deputy.
want to be asked a follow-up on that one.
Yeah, of course.
And I'm not trying to put you on the spot, but what would you consider being busy that you wouldn't respond to and go to services?
So through your Mayor Broad to Deputy Mayor CPR. So being busy for me is my guys are all out plowing. Because water breaks normally come in the wintertime. So all my guys are either out plowing or they're at home in bed, and that we know that they have to come in the next morning.
And then one more for me, and I'll turn it over. The grader. So we inherited a lemon, as we spend lots of money, and through our work at the counties and changing the policy for used equipment, we were able to purchase that grader. And I know we have a report in on the cost of some of the repairs of that. How has that grader worked out for us over the couple of years we've had it now?
So I'll let our mechanic touch on the repairs that we've had to make since we've taken ownership of it, and then I'll tell you how it operates operationally at that point.
We went from having a grader that you had to tow home every other week to a grader you can actually send to work and not worry about it.
That's good.
The repair costs have been a lot lower, and it seems to be a good piece of equipment.
Good. Very good.
So when we first originally took that grader over, there was an agreement between us and the counties that we were gonna do their gravel shoulders. So we did that in year one, because we were kind of borrowing that machine. Once we took over ownership, we no longer have to do the shouldering of County Roads 1 to 16. They do with their own resources. Operationally, my mechanic or my operator enjoys that machine. It does exactly what it needs to do. It's not too large to get down our kind of narrower rural roads, where the grader before had a 13, 14 foot moldboard, and it was just kind of a little hard to occupy. This has a little smaller moldboard. Since putting those wheels on the back, the Packer wheels, there was a little bit of a trial and error, just for usability, I guess, for him, because our operators never operated a grader with an attachment on the back end. So he's now gotten the hang of it, and he thoroughly enjoys it. And he's coming back to me saying it's doing a great job. Our finished product looks a lot better after the gravel roads are done, have been graded with the tires on them. So operationally, there's no issues. Good sight lines. The windows are tinted, so he's not getting that over zealous heat coming in like it's an incubator sitting in there. So yeah, I guess that's the best I can tell you about a used grader.
Right on. Last one for me. I'm looking at the 2023 fleet schedule. In the Public Works Department, it says there are 8 light vehicles, and you currently have 7 on the list today. Did we go down by one, or do we move one to another department?
So that'll be answered when we go through the recreation slides. There's a shared vehicle in there that you'll
Very good.
see.
We'll catch up and do the final count after. Any questions? Yeah, Councillor Smith.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Broad. So just the grader, that's a 2003, so that's going to be a pre-emission diesel, like no EGR valve, no after. Okay, keep it. And with the sidewalk plow with the blown motor or the bad motor, when this past winter did that go, and how was it managing the rest of the winter with only 2? How'd that work out?
So through you, Mayor Broad, to Councillor Smith. So that happened right at the tail end of this year.
Okay.
So we had maybe a half a dozen snow events that we had to manage, and we just took the sidewalk machine from Iroquois and drove it to Morrisburg, did the job, and drove it back.
Yeah.
So we were able to manage. It wasn't a full season, so which was good. Good and bad at the same time. So we were able to manage it easily at that point.
Yeah, okay. So has anybody come up with a plan yet or a talk of next season, what we're doing yet? Or is
So-
that on the docket for today?
That's on the dock for today.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Just circling back to your snow plows, number of snow plows and your routes. How has that changed since 2015? In terms of number of plows that we utilize and number of routes?
So through your Mayor Broad to Deputy Mayor St. Pierre, it hasn't. So when I came on board, everything's been the same. There was three town trucks and 6 rural trucks, and it's still the same way. So it's like 2 work out of Matilda Garage, 4 work out of the Williamsburg shop, just because the one truck kind of starts its route around the Cogna-Wagna type area. So it's just as easy for him to go from Williamsburg Garage that way than it is to come from Matilda Garage. So as far as routes, they haven't changed. They're still, on an easy snow, there's still 5, 6 hours to get around. On the big snows, we really got to push it to get around twice in a 12-hour shift. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Follow-up, which may be a little unfair, but with all the additional housing that's probably going to hopefully occur over the next 20 years, how do you project that affecting the number of plows and the routes? Because obviously we're going to have all these additional streets. I would think it'd be pretty hard if we're having a tough time maintaining on a heavy snowfall, as you just said. How do you kind of see that in the future? I know it's a little bit of a crystal ball question, but I think it's a legit question on how much we need to put away for additional fleet if we have to.
I think right now, if you're asking me off the cuff, in the village of Morrisburg, I think we're okay because we have 2 trucks that we could still pick up. Like if Dutch Meadows comes to its full fruition, we could still manage that in Morrisburg. So I think we're okay there. Iroquois, you're going to be in a fine line with, do you need the second truck? And if you do, then the routes might only be like 3 hours long, or 1 truck and it's the full 8, and then you start to plow it again type of thing. So it'll all come down to your level of service and how you want to meet your minimum maintenance standards kind of thing. Is the way I see it.
Yeah, no, just on that exact note, we only work 1 shift, right? So second shift overlapping shifts could be an alternative way to think about it as well. I know it's minimum maintenance standards how you get on, but there's opportunity to think about that as an option. That may not be the answer, but that should be a consideration on how we think about it. But go ahead.
Just to follow up, and I think it's more for maybe Ben. At what point do we take over snow plowing under new subdivisions? Is it occupancy? Is it registration? Is it like what triggers us to? Because just as you have experience, I've got experience. A lot of developments, we have to, as a developer, has to maintain the roads until such time as they're in occupancy, and then the city may maintain 1 out of 6 roads we have in a subdivision.
Yeah, through you, through the mayor, the answer to that's usually whenever we accept the roadway and there is occupancy on the roadway. So that's kind of the trigger for us, and it requires that coordination between ourselves, building, planning department, or ourselves being transportation, building, and planning department.
So it'd only be, I'm just doing an example like at Velcraft. I mean, if we have 3 residents on a single street, but they built out the entire subdivision, we're not plowing the entire subdivision. Okay, thank you.
Any other question? We can always go back, right? So we could, all right, we can move to recreation and facilities. Director Jansen.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So starting us off is panel van number 69. So this is the facilities tool van. It has 2 seats in it. And then we move along into unit 121. Next slide. There we go. So this was a handy-down that we received from the Fire and Emergency Services. It was a older truck, low kilometers, so we're kind of putting a few more kilometers on it before it sees its end of life. Moving along, we get to Unit 98. So this is a 3/4 ton extended cab truck, used a lot for hauling of trailers and stuff like that by the rec department. Moving along to Unit 106. This is the previous plaza truck, and it's about to be shuffled down to drainage with that replacement that council just approved for truck 80. It'll move us from a 2 seatbelt truck to a 4 seatbelt truck, so it gives us the ability to move a few more bodies, which our department is in need of during the summer. The next truck is Unit 109. This is our moving bodies truck for sure. This one does a bunch of the parks runs. A lot of our day-to-day work goes through Unit 109. Then we move into Unit 110, where the mayor hinted that the truck count was off in the slides there. So this is actually a public works truck. During the summer, it's utilized by the rec department as we could use another 3/4 ton truck. 109 in the summer actually goes to public works. So 109 and 110 flip-flop between public works and rec summer winter based off of our 1/2 ton and 3/4 ton needs. But basically one of each of these trucks is owned, they're all owned by the fleet, but one by each department. Moving along, we get to Unit 117. So this is the new Kubota Swiss Army knife tractor. So here you can see it with the sweeper. It just did its first season of helping us with cleanup here in the spring. And I'll say we had a very, very short spring to prep for grass season, and that sweeper was a great tool for us. Then we move to Unit 124, which is the new zero-turn mower for the hybrid mowing. Then we move to Unit 43. So this is the surplus unit from 117. Staff have held on to it to reduce a few of the hours on the Kubota while also acting as a bit of a backup. But we understand that we're not putting any maintenance money into it, so just sort of acting as the spare for us, similar to the spare plow. Moving along into trailers. You see the dump trailer. This is probably our favorite tool in the fleet. This trailer, you'll see it out almost all the time. Then you move along to Unit 70. This is just a small utility trailer used by the department. A little bit of rototilling, a little bit of snow blowers in the winter. So the small little utility trailer. And then Unit 123. So this is the new trailer as part of the hybrid mowing. So it's used to move around the mowing crew. And that's the recreation fleet.
Very good. Thank you, Director Jansen. Tractors for ball diamonds, obviously, lawn mowing, our villages, our ball diamonds, for example, one case are all 12 kilometers apart. How much time and effort, trailering, securing, safety, strapping, how much effort is that for one piece of equipment to do all those multiple jobs?
Yeah, so to you, Mr. Mayor, I'll be honest, we're only 1 week into hybrid mowing, so I don't have a perfect answer on that end. But like a season like last year, our ball diamond grooming tractor is on the road pretty much 5 days a week. We're probably about 4 to 5 days of ball diamond grooming. So that's a 2-person crew hauling the tractor around, keeping up with ultimately all of our ball diamonds at this point there's almost no availability left. So maintaining them, we're bouncing around between each one. And then now that we've added hybrid mowing in there, we're looking at that probably being another 3 to 4 days worth of tasks there. So between the fleet and those two trailers, and I know Director Hyman hinted that the large float trailer unit 90 something, 88 is used by rec in the summer. So with that, the new trailer has also been a blessing there to help us in transporting all this equipment around.
And did I miss it? But did you include the Zamboni in that list? The ice surfer?
When I reviewed the presentation, I considered trying to sneak the Zamboni in there, but it is in our fleet plan, but we didn't put it in the presentation today, but it is part of the fleet.
Question. We moved from propane to electric. Obviously, my hours spent in the timekeeper's box, I can tell the difference in the yellow or non-yellowness of the walls. But overall, now that we're 2 full seasons in, how has that piece of equipment worked out for us?
The equipment's been pretty good. I'll admit, like every new piece of equipment nowadays, it has its little things that aren't as nice as they used to be 20 years ago. They don't build it like they used to, saying. But like it's been a good piece of equipment to us, and I think you don't see it as much in the big overall budget, but the Zamboni maintenance line where we used to pay for propane has been turned down by $3,000-$4,000 a year. Like we are starting to recognize the savings. As much as there was an increase in investment initially, that payback period has already more than began.
Very good. And in the summertime, what's your total staff, including your summer students, approximately?
So if let's just do field staff. So if I ignore summer camps, lifeguards, the campground
field
marina,
staff. That's really what I mean. Yeah, field staff.
So there's 3 admin staff, and then there's 15 field staff at our peak.
Yeah. Okay. Very good. Questions, comments? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, question. Jeff, how many staff would you have?
In the summertime, I have 8.
8, okay. I got 2 questions.
Dr. Jansen want to add one thing here.
And just for the staffing discussion, I do know that is a slide forthcoming as well, just just for council's information.
Okay, just a couple questions. On the ball diamond, and this isn't a criticism because I think it's great how ball has grown in South Dundas for sure. But in terms of cost recovery, what do you think our percentage is in cost recovery to the operation and maintenance of our ball diamonds?
I'm going to say between 0 and 10%.
Okay. Question, I guess more of a comment here, and we can discuss it later, but up to now, I've counted 8 pickup trucks that are crew cabs. Do we need 8 pickup trucks that are crew cabs up to date? I mean, you talk about moving people around, but with the amount of staff that both you and Jeff just told me, it seems like we're a little bit high on the crew cab trucks. And is there a cost difference between a single kind of a 2-person cab versus a 4 crew cab truck?
So through the mayor, and a little bit of what the mayor was alluding to right now is you're talking in pickup trucks. There's a tally on my whiteboard. If you go in my office right now, it goes staff versus seat belts. And if I included min staff at this exact moment, I have 16 seat belts and 16 staff. because I have some 2-seaters and 2-seaters. So there is some inefficiencies in there. Sometimes, you know, you only want 2 people to go to a job. Other times 4 is good, right? So it's trying to find that right balance.
Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Smith?
Yeah, so just getting back to it was the comment that you made about moving people. Do we need a full-size pickup truck to just move people? Could we start inquire maybe like a mid-size pickup truck? I don't know, just because we still need a box on the back to haul whatever. I don't know if like, is there a chance just even contemplate like an SUV or something like that into like the fleet somewhere? I see Jeff shaking his head no. But like a small pickup, I'm just thinking like operational costs, like gas, like just, it's gotta be cheaper.
See you, Don.
Thanks. If I could, I'll maybe start, and if anybody wants to add into this one. One of the things, like as we went through this, and we'll talk a little bit more about like vehicles versus staffing and trying to move people around. But one of the things I hope becomes evident is that in our fleet, we do try and maximize the life. And one of the objectives we're kind of pointing to with council is trying to extend the life of a lot of our fleet, our light duty fleet, so the pickup trucks and the things that move people. But the challenge is when we start to actually go between like a single cab, crew cab versus the extended cab, is that the versatility of that thing being able to be used from, a patrol truck to a people mover to something else towards the end of its life actually diminishes. So if I'm being quite honest with council, one of the targets we'd like to actually move towards is just sticking with a crew cab, because the overall cost is not that much, not more significant compared to maybe an extended cab versus a single cab. Yeah, there are some cost differences, but we lose that versatility from the fuel mileage perspective as well. Like I think one of the things we actually should focus on too is actually maybe looking more at the electric or hybrid options with crew cabs, and we don't necessarily need the big engine every time to pull the big stuff around. So and in my I'm kind of speaking in my personal experience with the vehicle I drive, is actually my fuel mileage in my pickup is actually quite comparable to an SUV. So I think we're seeing some pretty good advancements with fuel mileage and that type of vehicle these days. So that's kind of my overall comment. And I know we do talk a little bit more about that resourcing, but that's what I would suggest in terms of what we aim for in the future.
Councillor Vino?
Through your mayor. Yeah, I feel the exact, listen to all the conversation, and I've said it before, we're trying to move stuff around within the fleet, like to extend life, years versus mileage and everything. It's hard to do whenever you have an SUV here, a Honda Civic over here, can't tow a trailer with a Honda Civic. So, like to me, both, fire, parks and rec, everything would be 3/4 ton gas crew cabs. Doesn't matter what color they are, through the whole fleet. And that would be all I would buy, just because then you could just move them, interchange them throughout the fleet, no matter what you do. The fuel mileage and the cost difference between them these days is not that big a deal to sacrifice the, I guess, efficiencies and the usability of the vehicle mixing through the fleet. So that's the way I would see this going, but that's just my opinion.
Very good. Councillor Smith?
So another question I had was, we've started along the way of doing joint tenders with the counties. Is there any way that just maybe moving forward we could do, the counties buys probably 4 or 5 pickup trucks every year, and trying to get onto a joint tender with them to try and see if we can save maybe another $500 or $1,000 on each unit?
For sure. We definitely could do that. In my past vehicles that I've purchased, I've seen myself get better pricing than the counties tender that comes in. Why, I can't tell you that, but I've seen better unit rates.
Maybe they should partner with us.
No, I'm just thinking like the more get multi-unit discount, there's got to be some savings there potentially. I mean, just so we can look at it.
No, we could definitely look at it.
Okay. Fire and Emergency Services. Sam's up.
Yes, good morning. So the first one we've got is 2502, which is Car 1, so it is the fire chief SUV. Currently, we are using it to move personnel around, so if a call comes in and we need extra hands, this is an option for them. If somebody's going away for training, it's there. If I need to send somebody to go pick something up for me, they have access to this, and we do occasionally lend it out to office staff. 1901 is car 2, so this was the old car 1, the old chief's vehicle. Currently it is the prevention vehicle and available in Morrisburg after hours, so they can use it the same way they use car 1. 1301 is pumper 141, so our frontline rescue pumper in Iroquois. It carries a little bit of everything, including the extrication tools for vehicle accidents. 1902 is tanker 143 out of Iroquois. 2501 is unit 144, so that is our forestry unit. So it has 350 gallons of water and a pump in the back, and has been pretty handy the last couple weeks. 0601 is unit 145, formerly 164. It is in Iroquois, people mover for bigger calls. 1401, similar to the pumper in Iroquois. This is the one in Morrisburg, same idea. 1201 is our heavy rescue 162. With the rescue pumper in Morrisburg, there's not a ton of equipment on it right now. It does primarily carry additional supplies for fuel spills on the highway, the accountability board and rehab supplies for larger incidents, and SCBA and air bottles. 2401 is the new pumper tanker in Morrisburg. 0801 is the rescue pumper out of Williamsburg, and it is currently at Battle Shield getting some repairs done to it. 0901 is the light rescue in Williamsburg. The big difference between this one and the one in Morrisburg is this one is doesn't have air brakes and requires a G license versus the D. It was formerly in Iroquois as a rescue. 0501 is the pumper tanker in Williamsburg. It was formerly in Morrisburg before we got the new one. So they actually use it a lot up there, primarily for grass fires. 0802 is the straight tanker in Williamsburg. So when I say straight tanker, there's no pump on it. It hauls water and it dumps into a porta tank.
Thanks, Sam. Questions for fire? Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, again, just on the same line as what I was asking Jeff, I mean, we see potential major growth in Iroquois versus Williamsburg and Morrisburg in terms of housing. Are we looking at potentially ensuring that our equipment is growing in the geographical area versus the whole SDNG? Are we looking at maybe growing Iroquois equipment because we're going to have more housing there? Are we looking at it still as globally? What's kind of the thought process in our equipment?
Absolutely something that we need to focus on in terms of long-term strategic planning. I know we've got some pieces of equipment that are due in the next little while. I'm not going to pretend that we have a great plan in front of us at this moment in time to consider that growth, but understanding kind of the strategic plan that fire has been working through, and once we do have the fire leadership in place, that's something we obviously need to really start to plan ahead for. So, point well taken, and I don't have a great answer for that.
Yeah, that's fine. I think my follow-up comment would be, whatever direction we take in terms of a fire chief or another administrator, whatever. I mean, I think, and this has bugged me for a while. Morrisburg, and I know it was over $250,000 we spent on that rescue truck, which, in my opinion, is underutilized because it was the I can honestly say it, the flavor of the fire chief of the day on how they wanted to manage the fire fleet. And, you know, we bought this great big pumper that all of a sudden in Mooresburg, it was a pumper tanker that we put all the extrication equipment in. I just want us to make sure that moving forward, we continue utilizing all of our equipment until such time as we need to upgrade, and not just, okay, we're gonna spend $1 million or $750,000 on a new truck when we've got a truck beside there that is being underutilized. So I just hope that plan is in place, you know, because again, we've got that truck at Mooresburg rescue truck, which is being underutilized now because we went ahead and bought a glorified pumper tanker, put all the rescue medical equipment in and everything else, and there's a truck that to me is a waste of money. I hope we'd look at that as well, you know.
Okay, sorry, Councilor Vino.
Mr. Mayor, do we have a defined vehicle committee for the fire and emergency services? Like made up of people from the different houses and whatnot that kind of dictate or guide purchasing? Do we have a defined committee for that?
No, we do not at this present time. I think what the intention actually after some of our discussion today and kind of looking towards our replacement schedule, because what comes out of today is really some, I'm going to call it like looking for council's support on how we want to update our replacement schedule in the near term. And to me, with that, part of it is actually going through and looking strategically in the fire services with, you know, input from key personnel in that fire department to be able to determine what our future looks like. So no, but that's the intention.
So through you, Mayor, the reason I asked that is just because, and I hope this doesn't happen going forward, but in the past here, it seems, you know, the fire administrator, fire chief role has come and gone, and that has guided a lot of this, you know, purchasing, because it depends on what the chief of the day is looking for. If we can come up with a defined committee across, like made up of, you know, firefighters, long-term firefighters that are sticking around and everything, maybe that would be the constant. And so no matter who works in and out of the, I guess, overarching role, there's still some continuity in the decision making. You know, why did we do this back then? What are we adjusting right now? But at least in that committee, maybe we would get some of that continuity.
Yeah, and I would say,
idea.
yeah, no, thank you, Councilor. Deputy has a question, but I'll just have a comment. Is fire master plan that we did not approve based on some comments and the results that weren't an appetite that we should just review again. Like we should go back and see what, you know, maybe there are some of those pieces in that master plan that we didn't focus in on. So I think that'd be worthwhile for us to at least to reread that plan and take a look at that to see if some of the questions might be answered in there. Some of them we're not going to answer.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I totally agree with both with Cole's comments as well. Again, we had a couple master plans, and I just feel that it was, I could be totally wrong, but it was strongly based on who the fire chief was of the day and influenced by that somewhat. And because there were discussions that were happening, and then all of a sudden it became in the master fire plan. So I think along with your fleet, I think the fire master plan, and I've always been a big proponent of it, should be the firefighters throughout the three stations that have the major input in that plan. Question for you on, is we always seem to have this discussion about when we need to replace our frontline trucks, and it's based on the underwriter's survey. I think it's 20 years. Does that mean that for the three stations we need to replace the frontline trucks, or is it because we're South Dundas we only really need to have one frontline truck that's considered replacement of the 20 years?
If I can, if it's all right with you through Mr. Mayor, to the Deputy Mayor, maybe pause that question, because we do kind of hit on some of the ideas in terms of cost-saving opportunities for fire in very soon.
Good. Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. I just had a question. So you have, through you to the fire department, I guess. So you have car 1, car 2 in Morrisburg. Then you have the forestry unit and the support 145. So they kind of are the same amount of seats, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
And do they function as people moving in a call if they're not out for forestry fire or something? Like, do they function to move people or no?
Yes.
So in Williamsburg, what moves people?
So they use the rescue.
They
as
use the rescue
their
just to move
people
people.
mover. Yeah,
And
so
that's the one that you can be a G driver?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
I believe that has 7 seats in it.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's just.
Does that also move the bunker gear? If I remember from my tour, does they carry bunker gear as people meet at the scene as well, right?
Yes, so
Because
that's
of rural.
that's a unique to Williamsburg thing.
Yes.
That truck carries all their gear.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Admin building bylaw. See you, Don.
I'll take this one because it's the easiest. Unit 104. Next slide. Unit 105. So 2 SUVs that are used here in the building, essentially sister vehicles, well used by staff. And as Sam had alluded to, whenever we do have kind of peak usage within the office, we do steal from the Morrisburg station and utilize the chief SUV to move people as well. And I just did that on Wednesday, so it's a great example of it. So building and bylaw, of course, are always out, and this is a particularly busy time of year for both of those functions within the organization. So there is, I would say that there is a infrequent but justified need for additional vehicles outside of personal vehicle use.
Questions, comments? All right. Water, wastewater?
Thank you through mayor and mayor to council. I currently have 6 staff and 1 student, and I have 4 vehicles in my fleet. We can start off with truck 85. This vehicle used for water breaks, check and sewer collection, pulling the vac trailer, any work that's done in distribution system, manhole inspection and locates. That's for truck 85. If you can go to the next one. So truck 97 is used for water breaks and as well as for collection in the system. This is also used to pull the vac trailer around. The vac trailer it's a heavier unit, so the 3/4 ton is able to pull the vac trailer around. It's also done for hydrant flushing, locates, and hydrant repairs. Okay, the truck unit 101 is our utility trailer. That's basically what we have our tools, and when we go to a water break, we have our generator. We have just our normal piping in there, just normal distribution and collection parts. The SUV unit 108 is our used for wastewater rounds, collecting samples, transporting staff back and forth to the facilities. It's also our on-call vehicle for when their staff go home at nighttime. It's the on-call vehicle. And it also does like water activations and locates as well. Unit 112 is the vehicle I drive, but it's also used for the water the water operator at the facility. He does it for 72-hour checks at the facilities. It's also used for myself getting back and forth to meetings, maintenance in the facilities, supervising digs, as well as going to sites and supervising sites. There we go. So this is probably our most valuable piece of equipment in our fleet. This one right here, it's our vac trailer. It's used for cleaning curb stops, valve casings. It also has a pump on it, so when we have a water break, it has a hydraulic, so we can use a pump to pump the water out of the hole. It has emergency lighting on it. It also it's a valve exerciser, which is a very valuable piece. So sometimes we have to close like 5 or 6 valves. That piece of equipment also will exercise the valve, so it saves the operators from that. And also it also has hydraulics on it too. So whenever we need to make a cut on a pipe, we can use the hydraulics to use our hydraulic saw to cut the pipe. And then I think there should be one more in drainage, right? The drainage.
I think drainage we kind of hit with.
Yeah. Okay.
Truck running here.
So.
Okay, questions for Dennis on his fleet? All right, seeing none. Going to Treasury now.
So fleet replacement schedule, it's what we have for all the vehicles in all departments with a 10-year schedule going forward. You'll see in it the funding that goes in each year, which is $800,000. And as you see with the red, it is currently insufficient to meet the needs of the fleet schedule.
So I will make one comment before we move on. So I have the 2023 budget fleet schedule that we were given a month after we were elected. So at that time, in 2025, we were going to be in a $640,000 deficit in the fleet schedule, and 2026 was $400,000 deficit. So we've made significant changes in the 4 years to push the dollars out and make some strategic moves. And here we are today trying to figure out how we don't pass that on, or at least continue to make new steps forward. So I think that's the challenge in front of us. And one of the reasons for the committee of the whole meeting was to not pass on the same document to the next council.
So this next schedule is, again, the fleet schedule, but with the fire and emergency services removed from the main schedule. And you can see if we don't include the fire and emergency services, the reserves that we are bringing forward would be sufficient for the remainder of the fleet.
Yeah, Councilor Ward.
Thanks, Mayor. So just through you to the finance department. So when we look at the fleet schedule, and please, I'm sure we've talked about this before, but just for everyone to understand, and maybe I've misunderstood. Every year, a piece of fleet equipment contributes to the fleet reserve in some way through the tax or through water sewer. Is that how it, so say the life of a vehicle is $30,000. Let's just say we bought it for $30,000. So to replace it in 10 years, 5 years, 7 years, we put away a certain amount of money every year for that replacement. Is that correct?
Somewhat. We're not putting sufficient funds away to replace everything as the asset management plan suggests. So the 800,000 isn't sufficient, but it is taking care of a portion of that replacement. I can't say it's 100% of everything going forward because that's why we are in the red. But yes, a portion of it is covered with the reserves.
So what I would say is we have the list of our 60+ pieces of equipment and vehicles, and we use an expected lifespan. And when that lifespan is 0, we plot in an expected cost of that vehicle.
That's
and
correct.
every year we take money from taxation and put it to the fleet reserve. And every year we take money out of that reserve, as we're always buying vehicles, 60 vehicles. If things last 10, 15, 20 years, we got to buy 3, 4, 5 units every year, right? So it's based on the value of which piece of equipment is the up and flows of the, and that would be another thing to think about, is not only the extended life, but then also cash flow. Because just extending it may not, may be good, maybe not, right? Based on your cash flow of how much you put away every year to reserves. So yeah, continue, Councilor Ward.
Can I just a follow up to that? So so through water and sewer, those assets are fully funded each year?
Through you, Mayor. Yes, those assets are fully funded because it's through a different funding source and a different reserve.
So if we remove those from this discussion, just for sake of that, they're fully funded in the asset management, or in this plan, in this fleet schedule. So just if we remove those, the deficit is primarily coming from tax, just so everyone's clear, tax-based services, with fire primarily being the biggest issue, correct?
Correct. Well,
I'm not blank, sorry, that's not what I
Well,
meant to do.
I think,
But the
No.
reality is, that's your biggest cost, because it's your
Yes,
biggest
everything's
equipment, that's your
contributing,
biggest
but-
trucks, that's what, that's.
Right, that's what yeah.
and I
So-
think to your point of, we're also replacing it not based on it's needed to replace, based on someone telling us to replace it. NFPA.
Which needs to have a bigger discussion.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Right, because if that unit at X amount of time is in mint condition, low kilometers, functioning properly, we would, if it was a snowplow, we would not be replacing it, correct? If at 20 years a snowplow was in mint condition, low kilometers, would we replace it? No, right?
Correct, which will come back to my kind
exactly,
of what
come
I
back.
was
Yeah, exactly.
hinting on,
No,
the discussion of, do we
exactly.
need to have
Exactly.
3 frontline vehicles or 1?
Yeah, of course.
And how does
Yeah.
that affect the?
Can I?
Yeah,
ask
Councillor
one
Ward.
more question? So just so I'm trying to follow along here. Sorry, fleet's not my expertise, but and neither is finance. But I just wanted to understand. So the red line on the deficit, that's how much we would need just to meet that year's requirement. What is the requirement year over year to fund the full deficit? So like I don't. If we wanted to see no red, we just wanted to see even balance. And I'm asking that on purpose. Do
Just
you
go-
know what that is?
Can you go back a slide? Right? There.
So these are deficits year over year, correct? That we're running because we just haven't put enough money away
Correct.
every year. So if we wanted to clear that debt and start tomorrow or next year's budget was we are fully funding every single vehicle so that we don't see any more red. What type of tax hit would that be?
It's a running total, correct? The
It's a-
red?
yeah, it's a running total.
It is a running total.
So take 10 years divided by, what's the final number? 3 point something million?
It was
3.9. We would need $400,000 a year for 10 years.
Which is how much is that of the tax? 5%. So we would need 5% next year to help future,
yes,
then we would not see any red fire department
fire
Anywhere.
department included. Yes,
and that would set up future councils to then be proactively funded and not have to have that
assuming
this discussion.
assuming this schedule
Is correct.
is correct and continues the same. Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's all I want to know.
Which essentially is the same as our asset management plan. We don't fully fund our asset management plan, so it fall in that same line. I get what you're asking.
Okay, yeah, sorry, Treasury, back to, no, it's great, this is good, we're all learning, understanding, paraphrasing it, so we're all in the,
Okay. So the estimated service life is what we included in our asset management plan. Obviously, different vehicles have different service lives. It's something that we review with departments annually to make sure our asset management plan is up to date. And this is the information that was provided to us.
Keys.
question, yeah? Councillor Reno?
Just to guide my thinking going forward, because I know we're going to talk about the replacement schedule, and I have a couple ideas. But hypothetically speaking, so let's take plow trucks for example. In one of the slides in here, the plow trucks are costing an average of what $25,000 a year to maintain whenever they get into their elder life. If you advanced your and this is a question, this informal, so this is a question to anybody. I'm just trying to get my head around this. If you advance the the replacement schedule, so say you went to replacing the chassis under the truck on all of our plow trucks earlier, and extending say you went to 8 years for a chassis and double that for the plow truck equipment, the money that you don't spend on maintenance can like if you could figure that out to help fund your asset management plan, because you're not like it. The whole goal is to lower our maintenance cost on some of this stuff. So if you lower the maintenance cost, it's somewhere else in the budget. It's not in in these numbers. So am I wrong to think that if we did an exercise to look at what savings we could see in the maintenance side, that some of that money that we're not spending in maintenance now could be used to fund some of our asset replacements?
So through you, Mayor, yes, absolutely.
Okay.
If that's how we, I guess, develop the budget, to have lower repair, include more in reserves, and then monitor that as we go to make sure that, you know, it's truly happening, then yes, we can certainly fund the fleet reserve with those savings.
Okay, so just for, the reason I ask that is because in my place of business, that's what we do. We run a very new fleet, because you can either run an old fleet and have high maintenance costs, and those maintenance costs are extremely variable, so you can't account for them very easily. Or you run a very new fleet, and your costs are, you know what you're making for your payment. For me, if you're making a payment on a truck here, we're paying cash, but then it's standardized here. So anyways, I just wanted to make sure that that is how the money could move around here, if it's the same as in my business. Just not saying we're going to go and replace everything here new, but, thinking forward, we talk about the max forces as an issue, for example. And I know we're not really technically supposed to say name brands, but we talk about issues in some of our motors. And that's a lemon that we bought way back, right? That's not to say that can't happen again. I happen to know that next year in 2027, they're making a wholesale change on the emission systems again, and they could all be lemons again. So if we adjust our fleet schedule to allow us to be replacing some of these problem things earlier and not having to worry about the potential costs, this is where I'm going to be going on this. I just wanted to put that out there, just so you can get an idea. Of
No, and actually, I had myself a note for some point during this conversation and to ask you about this, Councillor Vayner, and at least to make a comment. Analytic tools, right? So what you're talking about is, thinking about how do we move from reactive maintenance to intentional design, right? And in my work field, AI is like really important, and we're venturing down more. AI and the analytic tools that AI can do to put all the data into and come up with a plan or an understanding is really important. And I think, and I know at our SDG Summit, it's all about AI, right? And we should see what other municipalities are doing. And it's usually an analytic tool, right? It doesn't always have to be AI, but I think that's really important to your point, is how can we balance that out for sure.
I have just one more point. Just when this service life here, or our current procurement schedule, do we know when that was drawn up conceptually? Because we also in the trucking world used to keep our trucks for 15 to 20 years because you could, but that has drastically changed. We keep our trucks for 5 to 6 years now, and so you can see the disparity there, and that has happened in the last, that's happened since 2007. So 2007, you could keep that truck for 20 years. After 2007, you can keep that truck for 5 to 7 years. That's when that changed. So if our procurement schedule, was generally conceptually done ahead of that, it's out to lunch now. And that's why we're seeing some of these maintenance costs that we're seeing. And those maintenance costs are up and down.
Up here.
Well, you make a great point, and I was actually going to reverse on the light-duty passenger vehicles. We're not in the heavy construction industry here, and when I see light-duty passenger vehicles with a 6-year lifespan, I'm surprised by that. I would have thought it should have been 8 to 10 years, unless I don't know why are we? Maybe to your point, maybe we've got to upgrade to the 3/4. To get this to last a lot longer. So, I'm hoping that's, again, a discussion we're going to have in terms of life expectancy.
Well, the problem is you change that saves $10,000 a year versus the bumper saves $100,000 a year based on, on the life things, right? So it's also the value of the piece of equipment that is the challenge.
But it's value, but it's also value over 8, 10.
Yeah, no, of course, but it's about
And I don't believe we're going to accomplish this today, but the conversation is good to guide staff as to what we kind of think we'd like to do. But the first thing, in my opinion, that needs to be done to look at that red line is this procurement schedule. We need to have a very holistic look at this, because does anybody know how old a lot of these numbers are?
Deputy Treasurer. He was here when it was a vendor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I've been here for almost 10 years, and these numbers have changed very little. And if I'm a betting man, I would bet that a lot of these were arrived at in 2009 when we had to set up for Public Standards Accounting Board, or PSAB, because that was the rule at the time. So it's a very loose guideline. That's actually how it's plotted in the fleet cash flow. But as you've seen through the report, the plus ones, it's very rare that we get rid of a half ton at 6 years. It's more like 9, 10, or 12 years. So,
Yeah. So we need to look at this.
Yeah,
more in
exactly. So that's having an impact to the overall schedule. If we're saying it's 6 years and it's not till 10 years, I mean, so the numbers, it's like our asset management plan. I keep going back to that, is where we're saying we're gonna have to replace a wastewater or water building at $32 million, but is that reality? Probably not, but it's in our asset management plan. So are we overfunding? Are we underfunding? It's all part of the big picture.
One last thing. Sorry. So in looking at this, because I find we end up getting stuck with, it says we're replacing it at 15 years. We got to keep that thing going till 15 years, or hey, we're going to keep it after that. We need to look at these and make sure the numbers are as close as we can get them to what is realistic. But also, I'd like to come up with some form of tool to be able to dispose of vehicles early if we can identify that they're lemons. So think of a percentage. So say your annual maintenance cost over 2 or 3 years has hit a percentage threshold of the purchase price of a new vehicle. So you're replacing, or your maintenance costs are 25% now of the purchase price of a new vehicle. Why are we maintaining this? You basically be making the payment on a new one, and you're not worrying about downtime and everything. So we need to put a mechanism in that if we hit that one of those thresholds, it's an avenue for staff to be able to unload a lemon without having to go through this conversation all the time. If they can prove that it hits that this, whether we use percentages, or that's how I would probably do it, but then it's a mechanism for that. Because right now we don't have that. Right now it's like, hey guys, this thing's being a pain, and then council's like, well, hey, we're supposed to keep that thing for 15 years. Like, why can't we keep it there? You know, it would just, I think, make it easier decision making going forward.
Councilor Ward?
To that point, Mayor, is kind of where, like, SP1, I'm looking at that, you bought it for $68,000, and I think I heard you say you want to put $45,000 into it for a new engine. So to that point, and it wasn't 45,000?
no, we don't want to.
Oh, I know, and I know we haven't, and through you, Mayor, I know we haven't had that discussion, but like to that point, like it'd be an excellent tool to identify that. So, and I'm sure staff already do that, but yeah, to that point. And I just had one more question about finance, and I'm sorry. So when we look at this, it's gone now, but so when we say we have an opening balance in 2025 of 247,000, that's a reserve. But then I notice it's blank moving forward. Does that mean we are funding year in and there's no money sitting in there?
So in 2025, the balance of 222 is what the financial statement would have said for the Fleet Reserve Fund.
Right.
But so the green for 2026 is where we suspect that we're going to be at the end of the year.
Right.
The red is projected balance for the reserve fund, if all the purchases happen.
If all the purchases come out.
Yes.
So 353,185 is, sorry, at the end of 2026.
Yes.
Is what we would have if nothing crazy happens in 2026.
Right,
Moving into 27.
if we maintain the transfer of 824, which
Yep.
presumably we will, and less the purchases.
Yep.
And then any interest and disposal of assets.
And that would be the total reserve fund moving into 2027.
Just
so
for
there's
fleet.
not like millions of dollars sitting in our reserve fund that we're just not using.
Just the fleet reserve fund.
Just that 353.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so looking at that chart, next year, the plan is to put $800,000 in the reserve and take out 1.2 million. So that's the negative start thereafter. So, yep, just for. Yep, no other reserve. Yep, very good. Good question. Okay. Councilor Smith?
So just since Jeff and our mechanic are sitting here, with snowplows, reusing the plow harnesses and the wings and stuff like that. What would so presumably if we're going to start using them to do like a second time around in a second vehicle, what would a lifespan be of a plow harness, a plow, and a wing? Like, could you, if these things wouldn't go 30 years, would they? Like 2 15-year-old chassis, would they go that long?
So you're looking to repurpose the chassis that we remove?
Right. So if the
plow?
if the cabin chassis was 15 years old and then you rebuild your plow harness, wing, could you get another 15 years out of it? So at the second time around, your wing, your plow would be 30 years old then. Would that work? Is that just too long? Would the thing be having to be welded every other snow event because something broke? Or would that be pushing it? Or I suppose we don't know because we haven't tried it.
I
right?
can't answer that because I haven't done, this will be the first unit, the single axle that comes in. I can tell you that it was completely sandblasted, painted, new hydraulic hoses, pumps, like it's like new going on the back of the chassis. So there's a new chassis going under this newish refurbished hardware. The only one that we haven't been able to do yet is a tandem truck because our harness and dump box is not good enough to be the first candidate to do the refurbishment. So when I present our fleet replacement plan moving forward, you're going to see a complete tandem plow because I don't have harness good enough right now to be able to do the refurbishment.
Okay.
Until we get into the next tandem, then I'll have unit 75 that I'll be able to strip, use the hardware again, put a new chassis underneath it, and then we carry on with the process.
Okay. So we're not going to be able to reuse every one a second time. It's going to be kind of selective as it. Okay.
That's right.
Okay.
Councilor Vano?
Through your mayor. Interesting point. So we haven't decided if we're going to do, swapping out chassis more often or not. But an interesting thing to check whenever you're doing your next tandem complete plow. I know they're very expensive. It'll be a pill to swallow up front, but like stainless boxes and basically building that body then to be definitely a good new one to put a new chassis under down the line, if that's the way we want to go. Because to your point, Councillor Smith, I was thinking about so we're 15 years for a wholesale change right now is what's currently in our schedule. Trucks, emissions, engines, all that kind of stuff. We're having problems. 15 years isn't going to happen. So in my head, it was 8 and 9 years for the chassis, swap it out, put a new body and everything back on it. But then you need to have the body that will live that long. So anyways, it might be worth it to spend the money up front if we decide to go with that plan down the road, that when we bring in that new tandem, it's kind of built to have a second life. So food for thought.
Thank you. Okay. Moving on, Treasury.
Through you, Mayor, I think I will pass this on to those that know a little more about extending the life.
Tag, I'm it. So here we go. So Fleet Life Extension Initiative. So what we've done, since I've started in 2015, November of 15, we've been more proactive with our rust proofing program. Before I came on board, they were rust proofing. Internal staff was doing the rust proofing, sending out a few trucks here and there. But since we've created a new program of everything gets sprayed, we're starting to see longer service life with our light vehicles, right? Where I wouldn't have an issue stretching the 6 to a 10 for our half tons, just because we're seeing better value in them. With plow equipment refurbishment, this is where the new initiative is putting a new chassis underneath our existing plow harness, giving it a complete refurbishment of sandblast, paint, bearings, hydraulic pumps, putting them back on. We're gonna the first one should be ready here in the next couple of weeks. So we should be seeing some cost savings when it comes to that. And then we're purchasing used equipment where it's deemed appropriate So SP1, as Councillor Ward had indicated, that was a used piece of machinery that came into the municipality as a lease return from the city of Ottawa. That's where that unit was. The two holders that we have, the two other sidewalk machines, they were lease returns from another source. So where it's warranted, 100%. And we're definitely, through my mechanic and myself and through the CIO, we're definitely proactive in that style where if a used machinery can benefit our needs, the grader, another example, we're definitely going to entertain it. With the sidewalk machines, they're only used in the wintertime and they sit all summer. So I have a hard time justifying a $300,000 sidewalk machine for only 5 to 6 months of the year. Like that just doesn't make sense. So, but with buying used, it's buyer beware, right? I can't see through the side of the engine to see if something's going to happen, or I can't see through the side of the transmission to see if the transmission's going to go. But all I could see is what's in front of me. So that's where I kind of lean on our mechanic, and let's go have a look at it and see if this is worth the purchase. So we are being proactive with that. And then the last one for life extension is fleet reallocation. We saw that with the fire service and recreation. We're seeing that between myself and David Jansen with the 3/4 ton. So in unit 110, we use it in the wintertime to put a plow and a sander in the back of it, and it goes out and plows snow with me for the roads department. And he takes over unit 109, which is just a regular half ton. And then in the summertime, we switch it back and forth because he has more use for the 3/4 ton in the summer than I do in the roads department. So that's where we're seeing fleet allocation, and as well with the landfill. Unit 85 still had, or Unit 86 still had lots of life in it, and it'll serve the needs of the landfill for a long time. So we're trying to save where we can. I've got some other ideas moving forward with the fire and emergency services to help out with that big $2 million purchase that you saw in 2027 or whatever it is. So we're definitely trying, and it's more information to come. So then the +1 strategy on the next slide is the way we are going now, where if our light duty vehicles were 6 years, and with reviewing with our fleet mechanic, or if I own the vehicle, or if it was a recreation vehicle, we'd sit and look at it and review the overall costs that have been spent. And if we think we can get another year out of it, well, then we just move it from the year it was due to be replaced into the next year. All we're doing is moving that green line one more year out. So with that +1 strategy, does it work all the time? No, it doesn't. As I told you earlier, we tried to do the +1 with a roadside mower, and it was a nightmare. It did not work. So some work and some don't work. But that's kind of where we're going with the +1. However, if council chooses to stretch out the light duties from a 6 to an 8 or a 9, then the +1 strategy would be more for our bigger stuff, like our backhoes and our dump trucks type of activity. So that's where we're at with that one. And then that's just the schedule of the +1 strategy with light duties. And then our plows, our replacement schedule with our plows, the 15-year, I don't have a comparison to go against. If is 15 years the right number? Is it should be 16, or should it be 17, or should it be 12? Like I don't have that right number. I know as the up years go, we start to see our cost increase. Obviously, from 8 to 8 and higher, you start to see them increase. That's why we're trying to reduce the cost and put new chassis underneath them, just to try to help out with that overall purchase price, because the overall truck and plow harness is not getting any cheaper. And then with tariffs and everybody else being afraid of what's happening, new engines, as Councillor Vino said, there's a lot of uncertainty coming down in the next year, next 2 years. So that's where we're at with that one. Our plow trucks are utilized 12 months of the year. When they're not plowing, we're hauling gravel, we're doing road construction, we're moving topsoil. They're moving, they're doing things. We don't have the benefit of parking them from May till November, which would help stretch their life out. We just don't have that availability to be able to do that. So we could, but then you'd start to rely more on contractors, and then I'd have to rely on them being available for us to do our projects type of activity. So that's where we're at with our plow trucks. And then this slide is just kind of a breakdown. The red is where you saw heavy increased costs or a cost of some sort, significant cost from the years out in the vehicles. And then the replacement schedule. So we try to distribute the fleet to make it more beneficial for the municipality. We could try to minimize summer use. However, with our bigger equipment, we definitely do need it. And I think what we really need to strive for is to standardize the vehicles so that it's easier for replacing parts, keeping parts on the shelf, not having one type of engine here, another type of engine here, or one type of transmission or suspension. I think we need to do a better job standardizing it where we can. And we really need to figure out if 15 is the right year for the replacement schedule of our big plow trucks. That I think the jury's still out on that one, on what is the right number.
Councilor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So this might be a dumb question, so I apologize. But on the one slide, there's a list of vehicles that are like light duty pickup trucks, not your plow trucks. I don't know where it's in the slide deck here, but it's in our council package. So it says age 0 and age 1. There's significant costs on most of the vehicles there. Are they not under warranty for a certain period of time? Like, why are we spending? Is that like oil changes, or is that
Upfitting, probably. It's probably putting the stuff on, back racks, lights, toolboxes, any of that.
But are we doing that at age 1, 2, 3, 4? Like
Yeah, we're not just doing it age
1 or 0?
0 to 1.
Maybe the mechanic can answer.
For example, on one of the new trucks last week, brand new truck, somebody got close to a wall and took a mirror off, and the mirror was $700.
Okay, so it's like
And it's
used.
so new that you can't buy an aftermarket part, so you have to buy from the manufacturer.
Okay.
And there's a lot of little accidents that happen that might just seem like a mirror, but if you do that twice a year, there's your $1,000 you're looking for right there.
Okay.
Or a tail light, or a headlight, or somebody backs into a post.
So we could be saving some money there. Maybe if we just were a little careful.
Okay, so then there's needs to be a bigger discussion with directors to staff to ensure they're not taking out mirrors and backing into lights and whatnot, because that stuff is costs that we should not be, we should try to minimize the best we can. I mean, the overall picture, that's not what, listen, the snow plows, wastewater, water trucks, and all the incidental wreck is not killing our budget. What's killing our budget and the fleet, and I hate to say it, is fire. That's just, it's fire. I mean, we can do everything we can do to minimize the cost, but it comes down, and then we're having great discussions about little things about saving here and there, which I think what we're hearing is what we expect that you guys should be doing to do the life expectancy of a vehicle and to move plow trucks around and stuff. At the end of the day, that's minimal compared to fire. And that's, am I wrong?
Yeah.
Yeah, so,
I think it's 1,000.
well, but even a plow is cool. I mean, the chart shows if you take out fire, we actually have money ahead, right? So
Plows
it's,
is on the maintenance side.
yeah, understood, but fire is the biggest thing, and then that's the hurdle, and it might be just the reality of that this is what municipalities face, but, the overall fleet schedule, it's killing us is the budget on the fire, so.
Treasurer Stewart?
Through you, Mayor. Actually, if you look at the schedule, Public Works, the replacement for it through the 8-10 years that we have is close, well, actually a little bit more than fire. Total replacement, we have 5 million, and fire is 4.7 million. So, I mean, you know, there is merit to the point that the plows are pricey too, and Public Works is up there using a lot of the reserves as well, along with fire.
Councilor Ward?
Through you, Mayor. So I just had one curious question. So I know the fire department has implemented, and maybe the fire department can speak to this, where they respond to a call and there's a invoice maybe that's created and sent to the insurance company. Is truck cost an option that we can look at when we dispatch a vehicle to like an accident or something? Is that even, am I like lost on that concept? I'm not sure.
Don?
Yes, thank you. Through you, Mr. Mayor. So we do recover costs when we can. We have a service provider that does that. I believe that equipment costs are included as part of that recovery. Don't quote me on it, but I do believe that does. Like, they look at who responded, what apparatuses responded, and then and I'm pretty confident there's like that hourly value for that apparatus being responding, and I receive the invoicing, or excuse me, the reimbursement we do receive for that, and we get it regularly. I want to say every couple months. I seem to be, yeah. So it is a good service to recover some money.
Okay. So through you, Mayor, who determines that rate for the truck? Is that
Do you know?
Through you, Mayor, don't know a lot about the service, but they determine all of it. It's through insurance. They allow so much, and then our third party contacts insurance and deals with all that. So
we couldn't just make a $300 fee. I'm just making something up here, but like to try and help recover some of the costs for these trucks or the need for them.
So the numbers that company uses and the numbers we get when we bill the MTO for responses on the 401, it all comes from the MTO. It's about $500 per truck per hour at this point.
So maybe through you, Mayor, something we can look at in the future, if you like a delegation or something to look at those MTO rates, because like if we're going to spend $2 million on a truck, like $500 an hour is just not cutting it in my mind. But maybe I'm crazy. I don't know. I'm just trying to help. $400,000, 5%. That's a lot.
You know, and that's interesting you say that about the delegation MTO. There's a neighboring municipality has done that recently, for sure, as I remember. South Glengarry. So we should to see what their delegation paper was and their data they had. That'd be interesting. But yeah, somebody did do that very recently. Yep.
Are we doing fire after this?
Yep. Sure. Okay.
Okay, I'm taking this part of the presentation. I guess what I really wanted to share with council when we start to look at repair costs, and I find this is the very interesting one, is compared to, and it's obvious in the use and the type of use and type of activity the truck is up to, but as these trucks age in the fire and emergency services world, they actually are pretty low cost to continue to maintain them. They do get safetied annually, and there's always things. This year, which doesn't show up in this, we did have to replace a head gasket. No, a head gasket in one of the trucks because of a leak, but I'm going to say it wasn't a major leak yet, but it was preventative, and we wanted to get ahead of it before it went out on us. As Sam alluded to, we were doing pump tests just 2 days ago, and unfortunately Williamsburg's pump more or less seized up and caused a fire, quite frankly, because of that. And that was an older piece of equipment, and nothing in terms like that's something we do annually. We do good maintenance on those pieces of equipment. These things unfortunately do happen, and if it's going to happen, it better happen during a pump test rather than while firefighters are in a house trying to fight a fire. So it will be an expensive bill to fix, but it is something that we have to do, and part of unfortunately operating complex pieces of equipment. But overall, if you look at what our average our average repair costs per year are on these pieces of equipment, it is relatively low. So that's the story. The story I wanted to tell. And the good part of this is these pieces of equipment also get performance tested regularly and used regularly. So it does go to show you that even though they may be getting older, they're well maintained. They meet the requirements of what they're supposed to do. It's just that they might be older. So what we want to talk about and continue to investigate, and I do appreciate from the senior leadership at the fire service is, recognizing that these things do a good job, that they are very functional, and just because it's a certain age doesn't necessarily mean that we should be replacing it. I do understand from a fire underwriter survey perspective, a fire underwriters survey, that there is a requirement for frontline equipment to be a certain age. And that's something we can actually, we want to investigate further. What is the implication if we're not meeting that? Or can we identify certain units as our frontline pumpers, as the Deputy Mayor suggested, and look at extending the continued operational life of these pieces of equipment, because we can save a truck or two, a light-duty pickup truck or two. In the grand scheme of that reserve, it's not really making a big difference. But if you can start pushing out these pieces of equipment an extra 5 years times those pieces of equipment, well, then it does start to actually make a pretty significant difference on our replacement. So we're not suggesting anything other than to look for council's support to further investigate that, work with our senior leadership to identify what pieces of equipment need to be, are still, of value, because now we're going to be making a pretty significant investment in a pumper in Williamsburg that's reaching near the end of its service life, but now we have, it's essentially replacing the primary purpose of that piece of equipment with something that will be new and functional. So does it actually make more sense for us to keep it another 10 years and extend that service life even longer? And I know it's been identified as well that the tankers are probably something we need to spend a little more time and effort and probably replacing a little bit earlier, because particularly for our rural responses, those are the critical pieces of equipment. It's great that we're out there and have a lot of staff out at a fire, but if we don't have water, it makes it very, very difficult for us. So that's something that primarily we'd probably look at making sure we have a good and solid replacement schedule for, because those are such a necessary piece of equipment on those calls. So happy to answer any questions related to fire, because this is our main fire slide when it comes to replacement schedule and kind of what we want to look at following this committee of the whole, if council's supporting that.
Thank you, fire chief in this case. Thank you, see here, Don. Yeah, it's interesting. Conversation to have on how we think about. We have fire stations 12 to 15 kilometers apart everywhere, like in Eastern Ontario, right? And I don't know, has there ever been a fire where all our trucks broke down and we didn't have other trucks to show up minutes later? Did that ever happen?
We brought some history to this meeting. Has
that
that ever happened?
That would be insufficient, because the answer is no, right? Like, no. So.
No, and I think on top of that is we've been to fires where we've had multiple calls and we were able to respond to the multiple calls at the same time.
And we have partners.
And we have partners. And
12 kilometers away, like Longview, Ingleside
trucks,
Fire Hall is 12 kilometers away, right? Like we have mutual aid, anyway, so I really like to push the envelope on that for sure. Councillor Ward?
Thanks, Mayor. So my understanding, fire underwriter survey says trucks 25 years old, it's no good. Doesn't matter how many times you've used it. Maybe you've only used it 3 times because your municipality is great at controlling fires. I don't know. So they're just saying solely on age, correct?
On front line.
On front line, right? So what happens if we don't follow that standard? Because it's not an Ontario standard. It's a leading question, sorry.
Yeah, no, and actually we've started at a staff level to start to do some investigation. Like, what does it mean for people in their insurance coverage for fire? And what we've learned so far, and this is not comprehensive and all concluding, is that there are certain people that do benefit from, what we have as equipment. We do have a shuttle certification, fire shuttle certification. Am I saying that right, folks? Thanks. Acting fire chief checking his terms here. So we do have that. It does impact some people's insurance, but you have to be a certain distance from a fire station for that to actually apply. And the reality, the honest reality of what we have discovered so far is that the implication from a tax perspective to replace equipment based on the age is probably greater hits the pocketbook harder than potentially not having like that certification anymore. Mm-hmm. And I want to be very, very clear. That's not to say that we shouldn't be going through that exercise, making sure our pumps and we can shuttle and going through that type of training to demonstrate to ourselves as a service, our community, that we can provide that response. But it just may be that the only box we can't check is that our trucks are not under 25 years old, all these trucks that are participating in this. And to me, I'm sorry to say this, it may be controversial, but I think that's okay. And ultimately, a discussion, we have to, and make some formal decisions around the council table. But and I can tell you, like our senior leadership group within the fire service, they agree with this, unless things have changed since the last time we've talked. Like they absolutely agree. Like there's no sense in replacing good pieces of equipment if we don't have to replace it.
And through you, Mayor, I think that's something the public should be aware of. Like your tax bill is going to go up a lot more than perhaps your insurance will. So it's something like a discussion of, it's coming out of your same pocket. It doesn't matter. You're paying your insurance, you're paying your property tax. Like the money's coming from somewhere. So I think I'd love to have that number come back just so we can understand and I think it'd be easier to have that discussion about looking at the age and maybe not checking that box and seeing what happens.
Because we're still always going to be able to
Provide
do
the
work.
service.
Provide the
It's
service.
just not the age.
Exactly. My point of, we've
Yeah.
never not done it. Councillor Vino.
Through you, Mayor, and I'm no expert, but to your point, from what I know about the frontline vehicles there has to be one in each station, as far as I'm aware. NFPA 1900 says they recommend frontline up to 15 years, and then from 15 to 25 as second line, I guess we'll call it. But it's not legally required. So I'm glad you're looking into the fire underwriter survey, because that really is the only thing that we're concerned about right now. As long as you can still get parts for and still pump test, pass pump test, all of that kind of stuff, there is nothing legally stopping us from keeping a truck to 100 years old if we want to. I mean, if you look at a lot of departments, and I know we're not in the US, but there's a lot of rural departments in Canada and a lot of rural departments in the US that are running trucks that are infinitely older than what we have. And they're still perfectly, if they pass their tests, they do their job.
Yeah, they're buying our old trucks.
They're buying our old trucks. So we're looking at, just in 2028, we go into the red like that because we have to buy a $1.2 million pumper. There's also avenues to mimic what the Rose Department is doing, putting a new chassis under a pump, and now that thing can still go do its job, but you got a new chassis. Because that's when you start to get to 20 and 25 years old, the engine that is in that truck, you're going to start to maybe not be able to get parts for: chassis components, brakes, suspension. But that, to me, the fire underwriter survey, that is the biggest question we have to answer. And if we can satisfy ourselves that there's nothing severely detrimental about pushing some of the life, because those numbers speak for themselves. Look at our maintenance numbers on trucks that are already over 20 years old. They sit inside, they don't see much salt. As long as I don't know if we undercoat those trucks too. We're undercoating those trucks too, so the little salt they do see. I mean, me personally, I don't think we're buying a new pumper, and I'd rather not buy. I don't think we need to buy a new truck in 2028. I would like to satisfy this fire underwriter survey, do some extremely good research there. But outside of that, I don't think we're legally, unless I'm wrong, and I preface this by saying I wasn't an expert, but if there's nothing legally binding us to that, I mean, some of these older pieces of equipment are better than the new ones. You could get a brand new fire truck. I follow a lot of fire social medias, for example, and One department in the US got 2 brand new rigs, and both of them are down for emissions related issues, and they have their old trucks in place of them. So you're you could be swapping out something that's working perfectly fine for a new piece, and just because it's only 1 year old, it's actually worse than the other one. So anyways, all that to say, thank you for looking into the fire underwriter survey, because I think that is the key to this entire puzzle, and I think it's a big piece of our asset management plan, because that stretching the life of fire out significantly impacts our contributions.
Yeah, and I think everyone's suggesting we're not changing any level of service.
No.
Right, we're keeping the level of service.
Yeah, correct.
Deputy
And
Mayor.
I was just going to say, I mean, we could have our own internal policies that follows guidelines of the underwriter survey for our accreditation. So there's a couple other questions is, you know, and I often wondered, like, when we meet our accreditation, who provides that information to the insurance companies? Is it up to the resident to provide that information to say the municipality has meet the accreditation? Does the underwriter survey provide that information to all of the surveyors? Or, yeah.
It is through that accreditation provider that it does get to insurance companies through fire underwriter survey. So it does get to them. But again, I want to come back to that certification is a small little piece of what your fire insurance includes whenever they figure out your calculation of your fire insurance.
Yeah, no, understood. But I think what we should be researching on top of that is, why can't municipalities provide the insurance as the same bit of information to prove that we meet a certain criteria? Why does it have to go through the underwriter? So I think that's part of the discussion or part of the investigation as well.
Right. We can do
why is it got to filter?
Yeah, right. You're exactly right. We do the test to prove we can do it, and we give it to the insurance company that says South Dundas can do this
Exactly.
work. Yeah, you're totally right.
Go ahead, Crystal. Sorry.
Just a point of clarity through you, Mayor Broad. So in the insurance, how it would work is the accreditation goes to the insurance company that then goes to the underwriters. We don't deal with the underwriters at our level. We deal with the insurance companies. The underwriters are what sets the rates. So that information actually goes right directly to the rates. And then the companies would negotiate that on renewal or a new business. So that's why it doesn't come directly from us, because we deal directly with insurance brokers or insurance agents, where the underwriters are kind of the math, actuarials in the background, if that provides a little bit of clarity.
Well, it provides clarity, but again, I think we need them to have a stronger voice of the municipalities can directly contact insurance companies, provide that information, and we don't need the underwriter survey to prove that or to approve that. The other thing too, and I agree with what Councilor Vino was saying, again, I come back to, let's make sure we got the right equipment. Again, it's just a claw on my side that we spent $250,000 on an emergency vehicle, and then we went out a couple years after that and bought this beautiful pumper and put all the equipment in there. I mean, if we've got the equipment that can be utilized, that may help. And to your point, I mean, I don't think anybody's suggesting that we're going to lower the annual contribution that we do today. We just want it to be more effective, right, in the fleet management. So I'm glad and it's always been a discussion about how much are we saving in insurance versus how much it's costing us through taxation. And I know that's always been a discussion. So I think you're right. I think there's a little bit of homework that you guys need to come back, whether it's this term of council, next term of council, and set us up in the future for sure.
Very good. See you, Don.
Good, and we'll go to the next slide. So one of the questions that I know has come up is, what is the new equipment that's been added to the fleet during this term of council, just to get a sense of, the municipality has spent and council has approved spending a lot of money on a lot of different pieces of equipment through this term, and we're approaching the end of the term. But I guess what I wanted to re-emphasize with council is really there hasn't been a lot of new equipment added to the fleet. We have new sidewalk machines that have been added as a result of losing a contractor. The tanker that was in one of the fire stations, instead of surplusing it, did get repurposed to transportation. So that was an added piece of equipment to the fleet. And then, of course, the hybrid mowing. So one of the things I think, I want to reemphasize with council is what we have done, I think strategically, and I haven't been here this long, but kudos to the leadership team that's here when it comes to fleet management, is actually looking at how we can, when we're looking at a replacement, how do we actually add value to it? So the triaxle truck's a great example of, plow is left, a tandem, I assume, but then replace it with a triaxle, which provides a level of versatility without actually having to buy that as a new separate piece of equipment. So, and that's something that all of the departments look at and do as they're replacing. Next slide. So we've talked about this a little bit already, but in terms of light-duty vehicle needs, what we do see is that I would and how we did an analysis at the director level around the table is in terms of what would our ideal requirement be versus the light duty vehicles we have in the fleet. The reality is we're below what we feel we need. So that means occasionally we're making decisions based on how many trucks, to what we do based on how many trucks or vehicles we have in the parking lot, rather than being able to do what makes the most sense at the time. And it's not a significant shortfall, but there is a shortfall there. So the chart's provided and a little more details provided in the report. So more than anything, I guess what I want to suggest is that we're operating very efficiently for the number of vehicles we have, light duty vehicles we have, to be able to move people around. And there's not more trucks and SUVs than we need. That's for sure. What we have in our inventory is quite honestly a little bit less than what we need. When it comes to the removal of units, so if we talk about how do we, if we wanted to create some efficiencies in terms of removing units to avoid a future replacement, the report provides a pretty detailed analysis in terms of what the consequence of removal are, or what the alternatives are if that equipment is removed. So ultimately what we from a staff level, we conclude is that we have an appropriate size of fleet, minus what I was suggesting in terms of light duty vehicles. And it's providing the type of, for the workforce we have and the services we provide. So, if we're talking about removing units, we're talking about changing level of service in some aspects of the work we do or others. Or if we're talking about enhancing the service we provide, we actually need to enhance the types of equipment we have. So, for example, if we wanted to mow all the roadsides, not just the four slopes of the ditch, we'd be looking ideally at another tractor, because we can't put two mowers onto that tractor now. And that tractor and the mower is operational really from June until the end of September. So it's going almost full time, 5 days a week, just doing what it does for us right now. Or alternatively, looking at a contracted service. That's the other way to provide that. But it's not something we have the capacity with the fleet we have right now to do, as an example. So really last slide, second last slide, beyond the questions. It's been great discussion, I think. So one of the recommendations we have is really we've got some good feedback already, but what we want to do is do an update to the fleet replacement schedule prior to the 2027 budget to reflect the following changes. So looking at extending light duty vehicle replacement to 10 years, making sure and ensuring we're shuffling vehicles through the departments to balance mileage and use demand. Looking and investigating extending the service life of fire trucks, taking that information and then applying that to the replacement schedule. Looking other cost-saving measures, so things like more conventional type of pieces of equipment, reuse of fire components. So some of the things we've talked about right now. I know a lot of times it ends up being like customized units, but there's quite a bit of savings to be had when you can find things that are already made and more conventional. It has to fit the purpose that we're looking for, obviously, but there are some opportunities there. And again, working with our senior leadership team within the fire service to find those savings, because I can assure council, they're not looking for the brand new shiny anything that's made just for South Dundas, they care about the money too and recognize the value of the investments that are being made in that fleet. Continuing to reuse plow equipment when possible, and continue to purchase used equipment where cost savings are justified. So making sure our replacement schedule reflects all of these. Making sure we're doing an update and review of that replacement schedule on a regular basis. And then I think it was Councillor Vino that made that point, and it is something we do right now, but I want to reemphasize it, is when the mechanic's making strategic decisions about investments in, particularly when it comes to plows, just because a vehicle says it needs to be replaced at year 15, if it's a good unit or we've put a lot of money into it 2 years prior, that might not be, even though it's a replacement on the schedule, that's not necessarily the unit that gets replaced. So I think that there's an instance even right now where there's a plow which is starting to show some evidence of issues, and that's the one that, you know, we'd like to replace. Am I saying that right, Chris? Yeah, rather than the one that actually is shown on the schedule. And again, that just is strategic. It allows the mechanic to make those just strategic decisions, not invest $30,000, $40,000 into a piece of equipment that's going to leave in a year or two. So being able to balance that, and with the right kind of equipment reserve, we can actually make those changes. So if we're well funded, and this year's been a great example of, we've been doing that +1, but we had a surplus in our reserve, and it allowed us to buy a pickup truck. Also, instead of investing $40,000, $45,000 in a replacement of that sidewalk machine, we can spend $60,000 and actually buy a new used piece of equipment that's right now ready to go. So those are the types of things that we want to continue to do. Again, target the same kind of engine platform for heavy duty diesel engines, so that it makes maintenance, training, inventory, service a lot more efficient for us. And ultimately, with a revised replacement schedule that shows this, is actually increase that contribution to the reserve to satisfy those long-term financial needs. And last slide. Any questions?
Thanks, CEO Don.
AI didn't get the deputy mayor's face quite right, but everybody else is pretty good on that one.
Here we are. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Can we just go back a slide? Sorry, Tia. So that's awesome. We'll go back to that. That's good. That's good. Point 4, 1.1.4 under number 1. Would that capture the deputy mayor's comments about specifically the right vehicles in the fire hall, hence the rescue truck, right? So investigate opportunities for cost savings within fleet replacement. So just making sure it's that the rescue truck that he's referring to, maybe it's a different type of truck we need in there or whatever, right? And I think that should capture that point. I want to make sure that point was captured for sure. And going back to the master plan on fleet for sure, just see what it says, right? So yeah, want to make sure. Any other ideas that we want to add in? I would just say too, like obviously, increase the contribution to satisfy reserves. Obviously, savings somewhere else, or partial savings in another area would be beneficial to that. So it just doesn't go right to taxation, right? So a thought process on how that could come about would also be very important in that discussion. Deputy Mayor? Councillor Ward?
No, I was.
Oh, Councillor Smith? Oh, yeah, everybody, sorry about that.
So, yeah, through Mayor, I was just curious. I know right now, this is just an example that Mr. St. Thomas is without a pickup truck right now. He's in limbo for a few weeks. So do we have a policy, say he has to use his personal vehicle to go somewhere, do we have a policy for that? Like, do they get mileage, or how does that work?
So we do have a vehicle mileage policy, a personal vehicle mileage policy. Ideally, even I find even just, and this is me speaking personally, renewing my auto insurance, they really start to ask a lot more. How much are you using it for work? What are you using it for work? So it's something we try to avoid, but it absolutely is there as in these scenarios, because I know even the director of transportation, like he has to use his personal vehicle at times in the summer. Is that right, Jeff? In the summer, whenever because his vehicle is being used by the summer students. So example of being short a little bit in the summertime.
Councilor Vino?
comment.
Sure.
Just going forward, I know I've brought this up before about like the whole lease versus buy thing whenever it comes to the yellow equipment. By that, I mean the heavy equipment. I think it would be nice to, and maybe I should have asked about this for this meeting, but I'd like to have a breakdown, for example, of that last backhoe that we bought and actually draw that out over the next 10 years of ownership or whatever and see what the difference would have been through, like do an actual cost analysis and drag it out. Because I still believe it's better, but I'd like to see it for sure.
Yeah, well, let's we could take this offline and do it on the whiteboard because buying we could buy it was 238,000 to buy, right?
We can do it on the whiteboard, but I think we
but
need to do it.
But it was
together.
5 years. It was 238,000 to buy,
We'll
right?
need the
And
numbers.
225 to rent. We could have bought a whole second one at year 5. So, anyways, we could take that offline.
No, I think we actually should take this in line because I think it's a big picture and it's for future reference for future counselors as well. Because I know the next term of council, whether it's 1, 2, or potentially 3 returnees or 1, it's going to be the same discussion. So I think to put this in a big picture, I think what we should be doing is taking our heavy equipment, our trucks, and coming up with a table that shows, okay, here's our future purchasing, here's our maintenance cost, and even if we got to crystal ball it, and here's our leasing options. And I think just let's have that rolled out to put a period on it. I mean, because I know it's gonna, we brought it up. I can guarantee you the previous council brought it up. I guarantee you the next council is going to bring it up. And it's just more of to put a period on it and not specifically, have the debate about just one piece of equipment, but maybe we take all of our light duties, maybe we take 4 or 5 heavier pieces of equipment and let's just roll that out in a nice table. Again, purchase, maintenance, that's what our cost is, lease, release, rebuy. I just think that would be a fruitful exercise for future councils. Just to, again, maybe it's just a more of to put a period on it than anything.
Yeah, of course, I'm going to take it offline. Let's go do the work and come back. Yeah, I didn't mean not do it. I just meant do it offline and we'll come back with the. But yeah.
Sorry,
And-
Mayor.
no, and I misspoke a little bit too, so that's good. Yeah, no, we can come back with that. Yeah, perfect. Okay, next slide. We should see that next slide again.
No.
Is there anything
Can you
else?
zoom in? I mean, I'm bald.
But you fall down, you got
I like it.
you fall down, you got dirt in your head.
Oh, good Lord. Looks like I was doing
Right
a
on.
mechanic's job that day.
Awesome.
Always pick
Any
on
other?
me.
Okay, so just before we wrap up the fleet discussion, ironically enough, when we talked about some of the maintenance of the broken mirror. So just closing comments I wanted to say on that, and I wrote this at 7:00 this morning, was care and due diligence and public accountability to our fleet, right? So it's really important that we do all the things to look after and maintain and do a good job for our residents that pay for the fleet. So, and I thank all the work that the mechanic and the folks that work in the fleet world do. So I appreciate that very much. Anyways, that being said, we can move to the next item. We take a 5-minute break. Okay. Tia, do you mind pausing the recording? Continuing on, committee of the whole meeting for Friday, May the 8th, 2026. We'll move to item 4B, Stanfield Road street light considerations. Director Hyman.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So back in front of you again, you'll find the street light topic on Stanfield Road. So prior to amalgamation, the council of the former municipality township assumed all street lights on Stanfield Road, even though some were located on private property and served no purpose for pedestrians or road traffic. So these lights are truly a yard light. They are facing either the driveway or towards the house. So as a result of amalgamation, the municipality of Dundas assumed responsibility for all the municipal streetlights throughout Brinston, Dixon's Corners, Haynesville, and Stanfield on both municipal and county roads. So currently, some of the municipal lights located on private property on Stanfield Road are no longer working. Residents have been inquiring about getting them repaired. So I gave you a list of the locations where they are at. So given the long-standing arrangement as it relates to the street lighting on Stanfield Road, staff are now seeking council's direction on how they wish to proceed with these lights. So I did a little homework with Hydro, and essentially what I found out from them is that Hydro will not take our street light because they're in our inventory and give them back to the homeowner. They do not put them back into resident properties. They would have to stay as a municipal asset. So before you, I presented three options. One would be, as being a good neighbor in this type of situation, replace the existing street light with a solar light and reuse the same arm where applicable. Once repaired, the new light would then be the responsibility of the homeowner. A signed agreement between the municipality of South Dundas and the homeowner would need to take place. At that point, I would work with the clerk to come up with some form of an official agreement to get both parties' signatures. And option number two, dispose of the streetlights by removing the arms, lights, not the pole, and to address the potential liabilities. And then three is I'm open for options. So the total cost would be the head, which is the streetlight head, at a total cost of around $3,000. Based on the staff's review of the current lights, 5 new streetlight heads and maybe 1 new arm would be required. So I also included the streetlight inventory on a piece of paper, high tech, of what was assumed back in amalgamation. So I'm open for a good discussion, dialogue, or to proceed in whichever direction council chooses to go at this point.
Thank you, Director. Questions, comments? Councilor Ward?
Through you, Mayor. So can you remind me, Director Hyman, are these streetlights are not required by the municipality for any purpose, correct? Other than that, we inherited them.
Yeah, through you, Councillor Mayor Broad to Councillor Ward, those lights are strictly a yard light.
Yard light.
They do not shine on the road. There was no need for them to shine on the road. They are truly a yard light.
Can I have a second?
Yeah, of course.
Through you, Mayor, and the conversations with these residents have been, I haven't heard from any residents about this, so I just wondering, they want them replaced at the township's expense, or they just want to know what to do with them?
Again, through you, Mayor Broad. So the one conversation that came in was, I have a yard light and it's not working. How do we get it fixed? And I was saying, well, it's a yard light, so it's yours. And then in talking further, we found out all of this that happened, and that's where we're at. So they want their yard light working, obviously. I would, if I had a yard light, I'd want it working. So I think with the solar route, that would be a relatively cheap and inexpensive way of getting them their yard light and essentially handing that liability or responsibility back over to the homeowner, because it was taken from them when we assumed the lights through amalgamation for whatever reason, or why we assumed them. I can't answer that.
So can I ask another question, Mayor? So $3,000 for 7 lights or 6 lights? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So $18,000 for someone to have a yard light. The rest of the tax base is paying for. I have a yard light at my house too, so no one pays for mine. Anyways, I just want to Like if we go forward with this, Mayor, like we need to dispose of, like, I don't think a future council should have to make this decision. Like if we're gonna repair these lights for $3,000 each, then the agreement needs to say, like, can we transfer that back to them and say, this is your problem moving forward completely? I'm looking at the CAO, sorry, like we can transfer that asset back to them and say, like, because I strongly feel that this is not our responsibility. I understand that through amalgamation, it is our responsibility, but it seems a bit silly to continue that practice.
Yeah, no, I mean, we need to stop the practice. This is a yard light. This isn't a municipal property. Much like any other folks, when we deal with the counties or we're dealing with Transport Canada, if we're gonna assume an asset, we want it in new condition or like new condition, and then assume it for the rest of his lifetime. So I think, you know, option one, it feels like the right thing. We get them a new light, and then it's their property going forward, for sure. Councilor Vino?
Through you, Mayor. I know the first question actually came through me. Have we spoke to any of these other homeowners about this?
So through you, Mayor Broad, one of the residents is employed with us as a plow truck driver.
Okay.
And he brought it as well to my attention, so.
Okay, so there's two.
Yeah, so.
Deputy Mayor, comments or?
Well, yeah,
feelings?
you know, yeah. Yeah, I just want to make a I want to make a difference between village streetlights, hamlet streetlights, and rural road streetlights, because I know I've been a big pusher on streetlights in some of our villages and whatnot. Elma's, I believe, is getting them or has them, or hopefully it's in the works to get them. Thank you. I know we talked about other little villages, making sure that we've got good lighting where people are walking and people are you know, cycling and whatnot. I think this is a little bit different because these are, I would consider, yard lights as well. They're not really road lights. I mean, if we want to go in the direction of street lights, I think that's a different discussion, and I don't think that's the direction we want to go in, is having street lights on all of our rural roads, although I do recognize that it is pretty built up in terms of residential access, but we also have other rural roads that are built up as well. So, you know, yes, I agree with you that it's a cost to us. But yeah, moving forward, we need to get that level of service in that agreement that if it's, you know, we're placing the light there, it's your light, it's your cost, you know, and you guys got to own, operate, and maintain it for forever. So I'm okay with doing that for now. But I think moving forward, we would have to rethink that for sure.
Yeah, you know, looking at the map, these are clearly yard lights. Like, they're not even close to the road, right? They're clearly in people's yards, so. Yeah, Councilor Smith.
So there is one stoplight in Stanfield that is technically ours, right? Is there not? Street light at one of the intersections, I believe. Is there not? I thought there was. Maybe it's the counties, maybe? Okay, could be. Okay. So if we just decided that we were not going to, if we just said, no, we're not going to do anything, would the residents then, or would we want to at some point in time in the future to add our own stoplight or streetlights? Is that, so what I'm getting at is that, is it just in good faith to just continue it, or not, like, to provide these as was suggested and turn them over to the residents? And if we didn't do it, like, you know, down the road, would there be such a gap there that we would now be installing more streetlights on our own than they would be ours in the future to just maintain like a level of service? You see what I'm getting at?
Actually, no.
We don't have that level of service on Stanfield right now.
Yeah. So if we take all this, let's just say that we're just going to make a decision today that we're not going to provide any stoplight or streetlights to any of them. We just say, okay.
No, let's be clear. It's yard lights.
Your yard lights.
These lights are in the owner's
Correct.
yards, illuminating their yard.
Okay.
Nothing to do with the street.
Right. So if we decide that we're not going to do anything, we're just going to remove them, and then that's it. That's just say. Would the residents?
What do you mean, like just take them down?
Just take them down, or like the ones that aren't functioning, like the ones that aren't functioning, just gonna, like, we're not going to do anything. Would the residents then be coming to us to say, well, you need more lighting? Could you please add a light on the hydro poles at the roadside then.
But these lights aren't lighting the road today.
But I think that goes back to what I was saying. I mean, I think we made a decision that we're not gonna provide streetlights for this road, right? I think that's what we've kind of agreed upon. So are we just gonna replace their lawn lamps or their lawn lights, right?
If we light Stanfield, we gotta light.
Yeah, if we do this rural road, we gotta do a lot more rural roads, right? And I'm not sure that was the flavor when I brought up streetlights and again, on our hamlets or villages and other places, that wasn't the intent, was to hit every rural road with streetlights. So from my perspective, it would be a no. We wouldn't put streetlights. Maybe at the intersections, we wanna make sure the intersections are lit. Maybe that's a direction you go into, but in terms of just a straight road, no, I've got no flavor for that.
On this one, me personally, not knowing really any of the history as to how this happened back, like whenever this happened, I struggle to let the rest of the tax base pay for somebody, like for a yard light on somebody's property. So I'm in favor of option 2 on this one, in my opinion, because like I can go to Canadian Tire and buy myself a yard light and put it on the pole at my house, but it's because I want to light up my yard. But I'm not going to come to the municipality and say, hey, I want you to put up a light in my yard. I don't think that's right. But again, I don't know. I don't know the history of this. I don't know if any of us do. And so, but just looking at this I just don't think the rest of the taxpayers should be doing it. Because then I guess nobody else from the municipality no other taxpayer can come to us and ask for it because they're not part of an agreement like this. But I don't think we should be. I think we should be disposing of them myself.
There's the hydro implication though, right? There's hydro run to these today. So getting them off hydro onto solar then eliminates that hydro question, right? And that's part of the solution we're trying to create so that the landowner now has a pole and a solar light not connected to hydro, right? So then we're free and clear. Because so if we just give them the poles, what happens with the hydro? Like if we just without.
So through you, Mayor Broad, so then our streetlight contractor will eliminate the hydro, so it's clear continuity they're not gonna lose their power. And then I'll have to go through the business center through hydro and say, can you please delete these?
Because who's paying for the hydro today?
Who's paying for them?
We are.
We are. Exactly. So we can't we would have to turn them off hydro.
Option 2 includes
Right.
whether we put a solar light. Sorry, if we put a solar light up there, we're gonna pay to terminate the hydro and whatnot, and put a solar light. Or option 2 is pay to remove the hydro. Don't put a solar light up.
Yeah, I think it's kind of unfair to the resident at this point. But
I don't know the history.
yeah, for sure. Councilor Ward.
So through you, Mayor, like, if I'm simply asking this question because I have a yard light and it did not cost me $3,000. I know that for a fact. So, like, is $3,000 like top of the line? Like I can see from here to the end of my property, like that seems like a lot. Is that us installing it too? Sorry, I guess I should ask that question. Yeah, so that's where that cost is coming from. Okay.
That's still pricey.
It is. I'm just wondering, like, if we just they get to keep the pole and they can put whatever type of light they want on it and
The arm and everything,
whatever they want.
if that's allowed.
I don't know. This one's a tricky one for me. I'm leaning towards option 2 too, because I think, like, I know it's $18,000, but we just talked about how we're underfunding fleet. We have a lot of other things we have to pay for. Like, I don't know. And we've been paying for hydro for how many years?
Well, that's why it's in front of us, and we're going to make a decision. And like somebody has said, we're going to make the decision. So it's either option 1 or 2. Councillor Smith?
Yeah. So I guess I'll try and go back to what I was trying to speak about earlier. So if we go with option 2 and we just say we're done with the streetlight business, we're just going to remove them or whatever. Or a year from now or 2 years from now, are the residents of Stamford going to come to us and say Stamford's now too dark? because some of that light, even though it's a yard light, is going to make its way out to the road. The Stamfield's too dark. Could we please get some street lights now?
Well, they can certainly ask. That's always
So that's what I'm getting at.
that's always an option for them.
That's a concern. I'll just. Sorry.
So then you want option one then? So there's lights there, or
Well,
Because those solar lights will fail eventually too. Then you're back to the same thing.
I still think I'm going to go for option 2, but I'm just saying that the fear in the future would be that they'd be coming back for street lights now. That's
always
what I
can.
think we need to be cognizant of.
Correct.
Director Hyman? Yeah, sorry, I'll let Director Hyman if he has another.
So I just went back to the invoice that we have from our streetlight contractors. So the solar streetlight, which is a 40-watt, 4,000 lumen, self-cleaning, motion-activated, all-in-one lamp head. They're $1,500 for the unit, and then their time is an hourly rate. And then I included as the buffer the one 15-foot aluminum pole, which is $972. So if that part is not needed, then the price will be less than 3,000, but I had to give you a price to go from somewhere. So there's where we're at.
Okay, so that includes the pole with the light, or the rod, the
The-
arm.
the arm,
Yeah, right.
yeah.
But if we don't need an arm, then we would save some money, so. Councilor Vito?
And just a little context, the resident that lives there that contacted me about this back in the beginning was not leaning one way or the other. It's just it was broken and dangerous
Just wants
and wanted to know,
resolution.
am I replacing it or do you guys replace it? So there was no, that's just the person that I talked to. So again, that's why I asked the question if we've talked to any of the rest of them, because that's just the only person I've talked to. And that begs the question, before we make a decision on this, should we not be talking to the residents? There's 7 of them there. Because that could answer this thing. They're just like, no, that thing has. Do they all work? Do we know if they all work right now?
Okay, so if we were to ask a resident,
Well-
we're gonna pay for a new light or not pay for a new light?
Well, if they're a taxpayer, you'd hope that they would. And
there's no chance they're gonna say. We could ask. I'm just.
How many lights are working today?
that's.
How many lights are working today?
I don't know. I haven't been down the road. I can't honestly tell you. I know one is not working because it's an empty lot because the house is gone.
Okay.
So I know one's disconnected.
This would be my opinion. We figure out how many lights are working. I'm going to go with option 2, that we shouldn't have to pay for new lights. We give the residents notification that if you have a light that's working, it stays. When it doesn't work, we remove it. Is that
No, we have to turn the hydro off.
to each individual?
Yeah.
Yeah, to individual.
Well, then their light's not gonna work.
Okay, but how is the feed getting to their light? From the main hydro feed on the road, is it not? So you're not cutting off the main feed on the road, you're cutting the feed to their pole. Explain that.
That's right. It's a flat rate fee. So it goes from the main line along the road into
the
that
pole.
pole, lights up the light, and it continues on to their house. So all you're doing is disconnecting the light.
Yeah.
So from what Councillor St. Pierre is saying, or Deputy Mayor, sorry, is if it's working, we leave it until it doesn't work, then it's removed.
That's what
The
I would
ones
do.
that are no longer working, because
just
they're the
don't
old
replace.
incandescent light bulbs, they're removed.
That's what I would do.
But then, who's paying for the hydro for that light?
We would continue paying for the hydro
It's a flat
until the
rate.
light doesn't work.
It's just a flat rate fee.
It's a flat rate.
I have an idea. How about this? We want to get this done over with. If we do that, then we're gonna, council down the road, we're gonna have more of these lights to deal with. We have to pay to go in there and remove these, right? That one way or another, we have to pay to disconnect the hydro if we want to dispose of these poles as a municipal asset. Give the homeowners the option, if they want to purchase a light and have it installed, we can do that while the contractor's there. If they don't want a light, then they don't get a light. And we're going to be there to remove this power and everything anyways. So we don't buy a light for anybody. If they want one installed while the contractor is there, they pay that portion of it. If they don't want it, they don't want it. But we still have to be there to dispose of it.
Yeah, understood. Yeah.
But does the council want all 7 lights disconnected from the hydro so that we're not paying anymore?
Yes.
I do. I'm on
work?
board
Good.
with Councillor Vino's point. So if that's an option 2 plus
That's option 3.
something, option 3, I'm not sure what that is. Does that make sense to staff? Yeah. Okay.
do you want to do what Councillor Vino wants? Yeah, okay, well, I just want to make sure we bring back the right thing.
Basically, it's
Versus, because
option
if,
What I'm proposing is option 2, but giving the homeowner an option or an opportunity to have a light installed at, like, they purchase a light and our contractor installs it at the same
Okay.
time as we're there to dispose of the lights.
Okay.
okay, so, direction then is when it comes back with option 1 as is, option 2 as is, option 3 is this new scenario that Councillor Vino is, and that's what we can decide and vote on.
Nope. Option 4 is, same with Councillor Vino's, but we don't go in and do that right away. We do it on a case-by-case basis when their current light is no longer working.
And all of them include, all of those options include the written agreement that we've talked about absolving, like,
Correct.
Being out of the yard light
transitioning,
business.
yeah, the municipality is not in the yard light business.
Correct.
Okay, so 4 options.
Might as well make it 5. You got one more idea?
Well, we don't have a leave as is, exactly as is. We don't have that option.
I like 4 options.
Very good. Okay. Any other street light discussion? Seeing none, we'll move to 4C, municipal property update. Ms. Arende.
All right, through you, Mayor Broad, staff have prepared a quick update on the 15 properties which have been declared surplus. So we will start with 10718 West End Terrace, which is better known as the Adult Park. As you can see, it's quite a small lot, 0.13 acres. It has been on the market as of August. Staff received one offer at the very beginning, which we felt was insufficient, but since then, no changes. Next, we have Willow Road, zoned agricultural, half an acre. It has been previously used as a dumping ground. We've contacted neighboring property owners with no such luck. Vacant land on County Road 18, again, 0.55 acres, agricultural. It will be surveyed in the coming weeks and then put to market. 4421 County Road 16, which is the land surrounding Matilda Hall, 9.4 acres. Same thing as the previous property. It will be surveyed and then the severance process will follow. We have a property west of County Road 16, 25.6 acres, rural, unserviced. It is landlocked, so there's no road access. We've also contacted neighboring property owners and have received no interest. County Road 8, half an acre, rural, and it has been sold to the adjacent property owner. Similar as the previous property, this one has been sold to the farmer who had been previously farming it. So 1 acre of agricultural land. And then for the next 2, I will pass it to Director Jansen.
So for Coil Drive Park, staff are still planning on sending out an RFP for it. I know earlier last year, CAO Don and I were trying to work through kind of getting the answers to what the questions that we're going to have on it, and how exactly it would work for development. Still a little up in the air. Not that we want to have all the answers for the developers, but trying to prepare ourselves with the answers they're going to ask us. So the plan is still to put out an RFP for it. The other property is the Lockmasters property. So I have a draft EOI put out. Council wanted to make sure that that property met the long-term direction of the municipality as a whole. So using the expression of interest system going forward there. So moving along, we move into Haynes Road.
And I'll take the road allowances. So Haynes Road, it was an open road allowance leading to the water on Lakeshore Drive. So this property was sold last year to the adjacent property owner. We went through the process of declaring it surplus, issued a stop up and close, and an appraisal was completed to determine fair market value for this property. The next one is Noodlebush. No, sorry. Noodlebush Road. This came to council, I believe, in October. We were approached by the adjacent property owner on either side of that unused road allowance. So council did declare this property surplus and directed staff to sell it to the adjacent property owner. So we are going to be using comparable appraisal rates to determine the fair market value for this portion. So this is in process. Go back to 99 Main Street. So this is the former BIA office in the Morrisburg Plaza. It's approximately 430 square feet. And last year we brought a report, or maybe it was earlier this year, but we brought a report to council as we had been approached by the original donor of that building, and council directed staff to deem it surplus and to proceed with returning it to the original donor. Yeah. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can take the last two. So there are two road allowances in Mariahtown. So with Duncan Street, it's a little bit further along in terms of the survey's done. We're working through the appraisal, and then that'll come back to council for a decision. Millward Street road allowance, that one is council more recently declared that one surplus and directed staff to go through that stop up and close and look at selling to adjacent property owners. So the notices have gone out and survey and appraisal to be completed so that can be continue on. Sorry, I forgot about this one. Last one, Morrisburg Lagoon property. So this is new on this list, but another property for consideration. What we are proposing to do here is go through a record of site condition for this because it was where the old sewage lagoon previously was, but obviously a very desirable kind of waterfront location. So we're going to go through a record of site condition and then a file search to determine next steps and potentially prepare determine suitability for development and prepare kind of what that looks like. Likely similar to what we're proposing for the Lockmaster property. So we'll have some good feedback and I guess lessons learned from that process with this one as well.
Well, thank you for the update. Comment about the property west of County Road 16 that's landlocked. Can we go back? Apologies. Yeah, that looks like it's a treed 25 acres. Lots of conversations over the term about tree clearing and et cetera. Do we have any bylaws or processes where we own forestry? Like the county has a forestry program, and if we do, great. And if so, what's that look like? And B, then should we then if those property owners don't have interest in that, that's just a treed bush area that we keep and we declare it that, that's at this point, and that could be something that, we start to grow because, more tree areas, we've also talked about planting trees all around the Matilda landfill, right? That was something that came up a year ago, right? To grow more tree canopy. So just a food for thought. When I saw that slide, it was all treed and the adjacent property owners weren't interested.
Through you, Mr. Mayor. So if that's the direction we want to take, which is, I think, a very valuable thing to consider, I would, and I know other municipalities have in the past looked at donating this type of property to the counties. And the reason I would encourage, if that's the direction council wants to take, is then it becomes part of the forestry management plan for the county, and then it's actively managed. So, the forester and that team take the right kind of steps to make sure that, tree growth is maximized, that health is good, and kind of they do that intervention. That's an important part of active forestry management. So just food for thought, although access is the real challenge here.
Of course. Yeah, it just came to my mind in the moment, that's also, yeah. Councilor Reno?
Through you, Mayor, my only thing with that is, I mean, you look at all the developments along the 401 corridor for development of distribution centers. I mean, that's prime land for that, except if it's already deemed either provincially significant wetlands or any of those designations, it will never be able to be built on anyway. So then I would support that. But we would need to do some history on that to see if it is developable, because if it is, it's right on an interchange, and there could potentially be a DC or something someday there. So I wouldn't want to make that a designated forest and then, you know, hogtie the council or a developer down the line. But again, if it's already unusable due to its potential wetlands or something, then it's a moot point.
Yeah, agreed with the comments. Absolutely, we should look at, yeah. Deputy Mayor?
Yeah, thank you. Just on the Duncan Street Road allowance, I just want to do a clarification or just reconfirm. We're only talking about a portion of that right of way. It's not the entire right of way.
Yeah, correct. The direction from council was to resolve encroachments on that, in that right of way.
Very good. Any other questions, comments? Okay. Well, that brings us to an end of the agenda. Well, I'd like to thank everybody for their time and input today for our committee of the whole meeting. I think a great exercise, and a lot of effort went into the fleet presentation, so appreciate the fire and Deputy Chief Hunter being here, and our mechanic Chris taking the time this morning to share his stories, and of course our staff that's with us always. So with that, we'll bring a close to committee of the whole meeting for May the 8th. I have an motion that council now adjourned to meet the call of the chair at 11:25 a.m. Moved by Councillor Ward, seconded by Deputy Mayor St. Pierre. All in favor? Carried. And we'll say good morning from South Dundas.